Okay, here we go. Oh yeah.
We're live.
Well, we start the process, right? We're breathing, we're kicking, we're live, we're alive.
Yeah.
Howdy.
What is going on, man? Keevin, your internet. Are you close to the router or the modem at all, or?
I believe so. Why does it not look good?
It looks like it's worse than standard definition TV.
Well, I live in the country down in this big hole, and so my Wi-Fi is beamed from my house to my shop via my good racing buddy Ron that hooks all that stuff up for me.
Wow.
You got to have a buddy, right?
The buddy hookup. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a tech guy, really.
Yeah, neither am I, unfortunately. It's one of my curses.
See, all my days of playing video games at friends, we all knew that it's like, if you want the best connection, it has to be a LAN connection. So always when you do stuff, gotta have LAN.
Gotta have wired connection, man. Cat 5. Can't beat it. Well, there's a higher standard right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's no more LAN cable. It's fiber. Is that what it is now? Fiber?
Oh, dang. Can you have a personal, like, local network fiber connection? I don't even know. That's probably a thing. I don't know. I don't have it.
I'm sure if you have enough money, you can make it happen.
Probably.
All right. There we go. People are joining up. I love it. It's been a while. Last week, I'd apologize. Emergency, last minute things coming up and unable to all facilitate a meetup at the same time. Just how it is sometimes. But a lot to cover this week because we've got two new guys I'd like to introduce to the regional team manager system that we've got going on here at TLR. And then some racing over the weekend for Ryan Harris last weekend at the Super Cup. I definitely want to hear about that and how the racing's been there in Florida, and also Keevin from Texas. So, Keevin, did you get up to any racing over the weekend, or?
We did a local club race. Actually, that was our third club race we've had in the last probably month, which is awesome to be doing that again.
Nice.
Had a pretty good little turnout. Heading down to Dallas area this weekend for an RC Pro.
So the Pro Series.
Right in the middle, packing up for that.
Yeah, the Pro Series, pretty competitive, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's
a lot of fast guys there.
There are so many fast guys in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's crazy, you know.
This is, sorry, I'm not educated. This is 10 scale or 8 scale?
It's 8 scale.
8 scale.
Yeah, they do 10 scale.
They do
RC
too,
Pro
yeah.
has 10 scale. They have oval, basically every type of off-road or on-road both, I think. But this weekend's 8 scale. 452 Raceway.
452. I'll be looking out for that. What kind of track is it? Is it pretty big, or?
Yeah, it looks pretty big. Outdoor, obviously. Taking the RV and the moto pit bike. Gonna have everything with me.
It's not a real southern race if you don't have a pit bike, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
You get a trailer, you get your pit bike, and then you're racing to the south somewhere.
Meeting up with Philo Hatch. He's a pretty new guy on the team. Probably been around with us now about 3 months.
Cool.
There'll be a few other guys there. Not sure exactly who, but it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, man. I love to hear that we're back out there racing, you know, so it's good to hear the stories and what it's like. I know it's been kind of a dry spell for a few months, you know, for most of us. So what's it like getting back on the track, Keevin? You enjoying it? You appreciate it more now that we've kind of came from this little void?
Yeah, you know, I did a little couple of practice sessions when we weren't doing anything. So it's not like I haven't driven a car in forever, but just being out there with the buddies, you know, is irreplaceable. And the competition, you know, there's 7 or 8 pretty fast guys here in town that will keep you honest. And, you know, we don't race for anything but handshakes and, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's intense. You know, no one likes to get beat by anybody right here in town, you know, no matter who you are.
So who's king of the hill right now in that area, you think?
There's in town right here, we've got a guy named Mike Rose, which runs TLR.
Mm-hmm.
He's not on the team, but maybe he should be. And we got my buddy Ron, my tech guy, Ron Cleaton, and Ken Havens is a TLR team guy. We've got Scotty Brewer. There's a kid from Lubbock. Actually, he's not a kid. I've been racing with him since he was 12, but he's probably 28 now and has a kid and all. But his name's Brian
Call him
Beck.
a kid.
Yeah, I know, but he's a kid to me,
Yeah, still a kid.
And he's the fastest guy right here in town, actually.
Okay.
I try hard to beat him. I beat him when he was a kid, and the last 5 years he's been schooling me pretty good. But I could take him in a heat race occasionally, but he's been stepping it up in the mains, and I keep trying though. I'm gonna get him. He knows I'm there.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird when you grow up racing with somebody and you see them from the very beginning and they're not very good, and then eventually you have to kind of it's a hard pill to swallow when they actually start to just nip on your heels a little bit, and next thing you know they got hot lap over you, and that they still haven't put it together yet in terms of a full fast run, but they're coming, and you're trying to bide your time and play downplay it, because you don't want to add another guy to a list of guys that can beat you, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's also at the same time for me it's nice to see, because you see people's progression and everybody's slope is a little bit different. So it's nice to see that if at some point in time you become the bar, and then people have a goal to shoot for, and eventually when they start beating you, it's like, man, that's another guy I gotta watch out for. Dang it.
Yeah, actually I forgot. There's another kid here in town that actually he's a TLR guy, and his name's Sean Trainer, and he's beat me a little bit, and he actually works up there where I do, and so Monday morning it's like, hey, did you beat Keevin? And so we got that at the track and at work.
Did you get him? Nah, man, he got me. It's always more fun. Yeah, it's always more fun. So we're about 7 minutes in. I'm just gonna cruise through and say hi to people. I really appreciate people that spend the time, block out their schedule to join us for these live talks, and I hope people have a great time getting some info and maybe learning some about these guys and more about the team. That's really what I like doing this for. It's for the team, and then obviously we've got an awesome team put together here with the regional team managers in charge. So it's nice to sit down and talk to these guys and get to know them a little bit closer. So I want to say what's up to Vinny LaFada. What's going on, Vinny? Thanks for saying hi. Tom Bolger, new team guy I just added. I've been on the conversation and phone talks with Tom. Great guy. So I'm glad to have him on the team. Dale Best. Me and Dale Best, we're going to go to the track this Sunday. Yeah, baby. Can't wait. He's going to swing by, pick me up. I'm going to get to run my 4-wheel for the first time. And I'm excited. So I got to get all my stuff ready, tires ready, all that good stuff. So everything's almost there. So we're ready to rock and roll, Dale. Thanks for watching.
Stephen
Jose
Best
Alvarado. What's that?
Stephen Best. You know him?
I know the name.
He used to work at Car Action.
Yeah, I don't really know the dude. I've never really sat down and talked with him, but
great guy. I saw his name pop up. Hey, Steven.
Oh, cool. Okay. Jose in the house. Hunter King. What's going on, Hunter? Great weekend at the Super Cup. We've got Ron Cleaton, 452 Raceway in the house. Grant Houghton. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in, man. Grant. Brad Burt. Good day to you from Australia tuning in, man. Worldwide. Rob King. What's going on? Philippe Bonnet, what's happening? Nate Burns, my hero. He always, every time I get a text from Nate Burns, it's always, you're my hero, Thomas. So, every text never fails. If I'm at a race, you're my hero, Thomas. So I always reply back to you, you're my hero, dude. So Stephen Best, there he is. And hi, Steve. Mike Fuller in the house of Team Fuller. And Aaron Parks, what's going on? Justin Holder, Frank Root in the house. Frank texted me trying to get some info before this thing started, so tied me up a little bit, but I took care of him. He's all good. Dale Best, yeah, there we go. Mounting tires, that's right. Get your tires ready. We want to hit the track rolling, not doing a bunch of work just to get on the track. Matt Smith, what's going on? Charlie Mack in the house. Up, Charlie. Tom Haim, what's going on? JC and Glenn Sparks. There we go. So that's the hellos to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a great show. I'm sitting with two of the most outstanding guys in RCs. I've had a pleasure to get to know these guys over time, moving into this position as team manager. Keevin Sharp from Texas, Ryan Harris from Florida. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Hanging out. Nice and windy here in Texas.
Hanging out, baby. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Having a good time in this COVID situation. Are you making the best of the situation? I know, like in Florida and probably Texas, not so hardcore as the northern states like New York and here in Illinois. How's it for you, Ryan?
As far as the situation, it seems to be things are moving towards working as normal again.
Almost to go.
Exceptions here and there. But definitely the RC community is trying to get back going again. It's a little tricky if the parks and tracks are owned by the city. They're still under either closed completely or, limitations. But then some of the privately owned tracks like SS Raceway, where we just did Super Cup, they're definitely trying to get back up and running and trying to be mindful of the situation as they get back up and going.
Good to hear it, man. How about you, Keevin? Things looking good in Texas?
Yeah, I don't think we got it as bad as, a lot of the bigger cities, We're at the top of Texas right here where I'm at, and wasn't quite as bad here, but I think we're on the downhill side of it now, where everybody's starting to do stuff and lightening up on the masks a little bit, so that's nice. But yeah, we're opening up. We're having fun again.
Yeah, it seems like different states are in different phases of the reopening, so
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. It's nice to get different updates from different members of the team and just to see what society and life is like for them in their part of their world. So last week let's before we get into actually let's do the quick bio really first. Let's do the quick bio first, and then we'll jump into the recap of the racing and stuff, because I'm dying to hear the news from the Super Cup first, straight from the man that was actually there, Ryan, and see what's going on with the racing. The J Concept Series, always popular, always competitive because of just the nature of being the Florida guys down there and where Jason's at in Florida. So quick bio. Let's talk to Ryan. Ryan, give us a quick rundown of your RC career and then how you started get into this YouTube thing and where it's going to go in the future.
Cool. Well, thank you, Thomas, for giving me this ridiculous opportunity of being a regional representative for TLR down here in the Southeast. I was just kind of sitting there at Super Cup weekend, and I was just like, wow, this is really cool and really scary because there's a lot of things that I can kind of help out with confidence, and there's other things where it's like I'm going to be asking just as many questions as the next guy. But I am just super passionate about RC, and I'll help in any way that I possibly can, and hopefully everyone knows that. Yep. And for my quick little history, this is really interesting to kind of see it come full circle. I don't know what the circle is, but long time ago, my first race kit that my dad gave me when I was about 7 or 8 years old, somewhere around there, 9 years old, somewhere in that ballpark of that age range. And he gave me a XXCR Brian Kinwald edition. And I'll never forget it. I came out into the garage, and there was the box sitting on the workbench. And I remember asking, I was like, "Oh, Dad, cool. Is that your new kit?" He's like, "No, that one's for you." I was like, "What?" Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind because it had the blue shocks on it, and it was just
what a surprise.
Yeah, Kinwald edition, and I was just totally blown away. I think at the time I was racing just a XXT in like the novice class, and he saw that I was able to maybe put it around the track without breaking it completely consistently, so he felt like he could get me like a real race kit. And then it was pretty cool because I remember as soon as I got that kit, I got really serious about it and started taking a serious racing and kind of progressing in whatever the classes they had at the time. And I raced through my teen years. Kind of ended at 2007. It was the last Losi Champ race that I attended. And I don't know if that was the last one that ever happened or not. I'm not exactly sure. But I did well. I flew out from Florida to Las Vegas, and I think I won in the 2-wheel drive buggy class, and somehow I lost the 2-wheel drive. They were the stock classes. And after that weekend, Adam Drake at the time was with TLR, and he was like, "Hey man, we'd love to bring you on the team." Unfortunately, I was at 18, and my dad he had passed away, and kind of the racing situation wasn't really, it just didn't work for me at the time, and I didn't have the money to do it. So I had to just kind of like say, "Oh man, that really is a bummer, because I've wanted nothing more since I was a little kid, and now I have to say no." And I had to actually quit RC for a while until about 3 years ago. I got back into it, started doing the YouTube thing, and definitely not setting out to win like national titles or be super fast guy, but I wanted to learn, and it was neat. The popularity that I gained because of the YouTube channel, ran a lot with the Associated stuff and the J Concept stuff there early on, learning a lot from those guys because they're right in my backyard at all the Super Cup races that I attended. And now I'm kind of ended up here at the TLR team. So it's really neat that it's kind of long time ago. If you were to ask the 7-year-old Ryan, "What do you want?" "I want to be a TLR driver." And then, now here I am at the age of almost 33 years old, and we made it happen. We got there.
Sometimes life just takes you the roundabout way, and then you get to the destination. It's never sometimes it's as much as you want the straight, short, and direct path. It's sometimes it's not that way, but in my experience, when it's not that way, it actually is more interesting and more enjoyable. So I'm sure along the way you've developed different skills and different ideas and different things that influence who you are now. And as you can see with the YouTube stuff, which has gained a lot of popularity in the last couple of years since you started it, and has reached a lot of people, because I'll be at tracks and we'll just show up and set up and stuff, and then there's people that just kind of get oohed and awed over the fact that you're there, and you're like, "Oh, is that Ryan Harris?" And then then they ask me, "Hey, is that Ryan Harris?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's the man." And then they'll come over and they'll kind of get introduced to you, and they'll want to get a photo. So like obviously the YouTube thing is reaching a lot of people. It's making an impact to a lot of racers out there who are looking to learn and looking to explore more of what the RC racing community has to offer. And so I'm glad that your resources are out there, because obviously you have a nice style and it looks great, and you're doing a great job reaching a lot of people.
Thanks, man. And I wanted to share just a really quick story, and I'm not trying to throw shade or say, "Haha, look who's better." It was just an interesting way to see that there was a brand new father and son team that have literally like 2 months ago got into RC. Okay. And so they watched their little son like forces mom and dad to like watch all my videos. And his name's Colton. If you're watching, what's up, dude? I hope you're watching, or not. If it's bedtime, then go to bed. But awesome little dude. And the family was there with him. And I was sitting at my table, and I was just setting up on practice day. And Spencer Rivkin is there talking to me. We're just catching up, talking about video stuff, because he does the YouTube thing too, and he runs for Team Associated. So he's sitting there talking to me, and I noticed they're off to the side, and they're just like waiting to come talk. And I was like, "Oh, they're obviously waiting to go talk to Spencer Rivkin, current 2-wheel drive world champion, 2-time world champion, not like he just amazing, talented driver that I want to get my picture taken with this dude, right?" And then so he leaves. And then they like wave at him, and then they're like, "Oh, Ryan, we're so happy to meet you, my son." And it's like I don't even know if they know who he was, but it was
probably don't.
It's just a testament, I think, that it's something that it's important that people like Spencer Rivkin are out there doing the YouTube thing, because all the newcomers, it's all they'll be able to consume if they're not at the track, or if they don't know what they don't know. That's why I think this stuff is really cool. And that's really just the only reason why I think I've gotten any notoriety at all, is just because I'm there to kind of educate the people as best I can.
Yeah, for sure. Spencer's definitely put in a lot of time and effort in trying to broaden his social media thing, and I think it's an awesome thing. Everything that he contributes is something positive. So, did you guys watch his pit stop challenge? Holy smokes, that catch, man!
So fat.
That one-handed catch.
Oh, so
was
good.
so amazing. Like he caught that car in the air mid-flight, and it didn't like it was just natural movement to put it on the it wasn't like a or like had a fumble. It was so connected, and he brought it to the you know, the tank, put it out, and just threw it out there, and the car jumps across the lane and onto the track surface rather than turning on, you know, down the pit lane and then turning onto the track surface. Jumps over it, and it's just a phenomenal pit stop. I don't know if you can beat that one. I don't know.
I don't know if he could do that in a pressure situation.
I want to see the outtakes. How many were there that didn't work?
Exactly.
Dude, you jumped into my arm, man. What are you doing?
that pit exit might be a stop and go.
Yeah,
maybe.
so I don't encourage anybody out there who saw that video to try that at home. Spencer and his guy, I can't remember. Was it Jackson he was pitting? I don't know who he was pitting, but don't try it at home, because these guys are trained professionals. This is what they do for a living. And they obviously mess around and have a great time messing around and find some clever things like that pit stop. But you could get seriously hurt if the two drivers are not synced up, because if one guy jumps that jump and you're supposed to catch it and you miss and hits your face, whoo, yeah,
I'm sure it's been done.
Yeah, so don't try it. If you don't have the skills and you're still learning, don't try that at home, please. It's awesome to watch, and it's a fantastic pit stop. It's more for show, but it's something that we are not going to be practicing on the regular for pit stop, because man, just imagine the carnage if everybody tried to jump into their pit guy's hand. Yeah, don't want to see that. Okay, so let's move on to Keevin real quick. Keevin, what is your background, your story? How did you get into RCs? And yeah, let us know, because I know something pretty fantastic about you. You were actually Mark Pavidis's pitman for many a years.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people actually know that. So let's I would love to hear your story.
Mark and I traveled the world for sure. Yeah. But no, I was a motocross guy, you know, and like a lot of motocross guys, they break their arm and they're sitting around the house with nothing to do, so they go buy this RC10, or, you know, I started like in the late 80s, you know, so I'm a little older than you guys maybe. But that's where it started, with just something to do while had some broken bones, and then it was so much fun. I got really passionate into it. Started some local racing. You know, it started in the backyard. It grew from there. Me and a few other guys probably had 3 or 4 different tracks around town. They would move to different locations. We had indoor tracks, we had outdoor tracks, and then it got bigger where I started traveling to races, you know, in the 90s, and that's where I met Mark. He had the same interest as me. He was a motocross guy, but he raced RC cars for a living, and we became good friends. And I went to all the worlds and nationals with him since 2000. Well, before 2002, I think we won our first national championship in about 04, but the first world we went to was in 02. And
wow,
we went to probably 6 races a year for, you know, probably 15 years, and then, you know, Mark's not traveling anymore. Unfortunately, he's not doing much racing. So but that's where I learned, you know, how to do it right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were a pitman for a world champion, right? I mean,
yeah. And, you know, there was a time there when I shouldn't have been, probably. You know, we had a few issues early on that I just was not experienced with, but I learned, and, you know, after years, you know, we could tell what each other were thinking, you know, and worked really well together, and, you know, ultimately won a world championship. So that was nice. You know, that was like the last hurdle Mark wanted to achieve, and he finally got it, you know. And then, you know, we were part of Team Associated for, I think, 6 years, and then we went to Kyosho for about 5 years, and then we moved over to TLR with Adam, and then you know, Mark slowed down as far as traveling and everything, and I stuck with it. I've been with TLR now about 7 years, and it's home. That's what feels good. The people there, Todd and the guys at Horizon, that've been there a long time, and Todd's a world's competitor. He knows racing. He knows both ends of the business.
Yeah, he definitely is starting to excel at the other end of the business.
Yeah. So, I'm still mainly racing regionally, which is, my territory is New Mexico and Oklahoma and Louisiana and Arkansas. But I still like to do the nationals and, hit Silver State most of the time. Like the Dallas race this weekend, it's going to be a great opportunity to meet some people. It's over closer to Louisiana, so I think there'll be some guys from Louisiana there, which I've never met. That should be good. So ought to be a good weekend.
Some of the Southern Nationals guys.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no, that race is fantastic. Have you been to that one?
I haven't. Mm-hmm.
No, it's a really good one. It's maybe a little bit far from you, since Texas is a pretty huge state. It's kind of over by I forget what's the city is called, but it's over by Shreveport. I remember you pass through Shreveport and then you go into the town that it's in, but it's pretty close. But fantastic race, man. The track layouts have been always really fun there. Just a little mix of, it's not your traditional like back and forth kind of track. It's more kind of a 3-dimensional track, and the layouts are just a lot of fun. And just surface is good. Track holds together pretty well. Yeah. And it's great racing when the competition's there too. It's fantastic. So
one thing I think that I was really lucky to absorb, in all the years of traveling, is I've had a chance to tell or listen to stories from guys like Jammin' Jay, Gil Losi Jr., Adam Drake. I went through the rental wreck era of RC car racing. You know what that is, right?
No, not really, actually.
Rental car, back when you could do what you wanted with a rental car.
When you hammered them. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Now now no one hammers the rental cars. They just return it.
Those days are over.
Well, how dare they?
I watched Adam strip the rear axle out of a van one day. I think it was in the Burger King parking lot, and he was sitting there with the back right end of the van on the ground and the wheel and axle like 50 feet over.
Back in the day, man, I don't know when it got super serious, but there was like the races were kind of parties.
Yeah, those guys had a lot of fun, but on the track they were serious, and that's one thing I learned too, is just how much wrenching those guys do. I used to just show up with my car and it was ready,
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're watching guys that tear them down after practice and turn them inside out.
Every run, man.
They go a little
every faster. Run.
And I'm like, I guess I should take my car apart.
Yeah, it's like, what am I doing? I guess I guess we don't just sit here and wait around.
Yeah, and now I really take pride in my car being clean. I'm not saying it's always clean, but
right.
That's another thing I learned from Mark. His car always looked great on the track. That the chassis was always clean. All that. It was always impressive.
Having been someone that actually has traveled around and been to a lot of these prestigious races, Worlds, Nationals, and many of the big 8-scale races, what impressed you the most about working with Mark over like meeting some of the other guys or watching some of the other elite guys? Because Mark was pretty special, I think.
Yeah, back when he was, the guy that was probably going to TQ, he TQ'd a lot. He didn't win all the races, but he TQ'd a pretty fair amount, or he was always like a top 2 or 3 qualifier. And he was innovative with his tires, with his chassis, whatever, and we had been in our pit area and people would just stand behind us and watch the things Mark did to his car. He would snipe tires, or, I watched him one time, it had been raining for days at this World somewhere, and he glued up a set of narrow, I think they were hole shots. And, the skinny tire in the mud, it was really crazy. And then all of a sudden you look around and guys are cutting their tires and gluing them together. About a dozen guys had skinny hole shots on their cars,
Just because they cut through mud better.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Just he was innovative, about a lot of things. and just knew a lot of setup details that I never knew. And I call him still and ask him things,
Yeah.
about cars and anti squat and all that, roll center. It's just never ends.
There seems to be kind of like two ways to approach, like, getting fast or being fast. One is the type of guy that puts in a lot of work, preparation, and all that stuff. And the other guy is kind of like more of a talent. Especially back in the day, it was more it showed up and you relied on your talent to really kind of make results happen. Was he kind of the more talented driver, or was he like the hardest working driver behind the scenes? You just never really saw it.
He had talent and he was hardworking. And then like you have a guy like Scott Hughes, Scott came this close to winning the Worlds a couple times. He won some big electric races. Him and Mark both worked at Associated when they were kids, basically. Soldering capacitors on Reedy Sonic motors, building Reedy batteries, and stuff like that. And, Scott could show up at a race and miss practice and TQ, he TQ'd in one Silver State one year, didn't even practice. He got there like the day of qualifying,
The legend of Scott Hughes continues,
There's
man.
So many stories about that guy too at the track, and at the nightlife,
Yep.
You have to ask him about his scooter crash in Uruguay. Just
oh no.
Unbelievable,
Oh no. Crashing a scooter in a foreign country. Not the thing you want to do.
Satin Proline jacket,
Huh.
And we're going down Main Street and he just stands up on the seat, like you see the guys on TV, and it didn't work out.
Oh, dude. He's all the stories I hear, man. I would love to someday to sit down. I've never really I've spoken to him when we were at Lunsford. I was visiting Kelly Lunsford in the Northwest there, because I was visiting home, and I was at a race at Northwest Hobbies, and Kelly's shop is literally like a half a mile away. Like it's 4 or 5 blocks away. So you just drive down and you go to Kelly's shop. So I was stopping by saying hi, and Kelly wasn't there, but Scott was. So I kind of I knew his name, I knew who he was, and I heard some stories from Jason a little bit, but I didn't really know the legend of Scott Hughes yet. And so I was just kind of making casual talk and chit chatting with him. He seemed like a really nice dude, and I left, and and I never got that impression this guy was that wild man back in the day, just setting, instigating a lot of things and turning things into a wild night. It sounds like so.
Yeah, if you could ever get guys like, them and Saxton and Degani together and just record their stories, it would sell.
Yeah, I bet you that would be hours of just endless crazy stories from them. I mean, interesting dude for sure. And he seems to especially for guys that are part of the older generation of racers, they have a real connection with Scott too, just because he seems to be everywhere. He had that speed, and like you said, he had that talent where he just showed up and he could just win races. One time I remember asking Jason Rona, I'm like, hey man, who do you think in the history of all the people that you've met in racing, who do you think had the most talent but just didn't make it like you would think they would make it, So he kind of sat there and thought, was like, Scott Hughes. And I'm like, really? So even though he accomplished so much, even Jason felt like he was still achieving because he didn't, he is, to me, it sounded like he had the skills to win worlds, but he never really he never won it because he was, doing his thing. And right or wrong, he still was a very successful guy. He's obviously, didn't make RC racing his future and his livelihood in a way, he did with working for Kelly Lunsford, but not directly,
Yeah, and the neat thing about Scott is he looked 14 till he was 35.
Is that why he has that full man beard? Like he looks like Grizzly Adams. He just didn't want to look so young anymore. Just when does that become a real problem?
Yeah.
Lucky for him, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So, So this is the quick bio, man. You guys have obviously interesting paths, and you know, that's what makes us unique. We come from different backgrounds. You know, my background is a lot different from Ryan's. Keevan's is a lot different from all of us. So there's a lot of strength in the differences, and I know this for a fact because it you know, we can cover areas of each other's strengths, but also each other's weaknesses because we are not the same people. We are different. We have different approaches and styles, which is great. You know, I think that's something to relish rather than think of it as a negative. So, so let's talk about this. Before we started this conversation, I emailed these guys three kind of silly questions, just to kind of break the ice a little bit. The first question, since I'm kind of, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a big Marvel superhero guy. I've watched every single Marvel superhero movie. I basically could watch Endgame and Infinity Wars like every day, if you know, like just because they're such great movies. So I asked them. My first question to these two guys was, if you were a superhero, which one of today's superhero would you be? Which would you be closely matched to? So I don't know if you guys are superhero guys or Marvel guys at all, but you know. So,
so I don't know if this qualifies, but it kind of like goes in line with, I think, kind of that I don't have the talents of like the Mayfields and the Rivkins and the Dakota Fens, but I can make my stuff look pretty decent, and I can, you know, put together something that looks nice, right? There's some sort of like I can compensate somehow. So I was like thinking like Batman, probably. Like he doesn't technically have superpowers.
Yeah, no.
Like he, you know, he makes it happen one way or another. He's there somehow.
He's got gadgets and skills.
Right, exactly. See, like right now, got a gadget making this thing happen.
I like it, dude. I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like it. It makes sense. My answer is kind of the same too. Keevin, what do you think? Are you a big Marvel guy, a big superhero guy? Have you seen all the movies or what?
I gotta confess, I breezed through the email and I thought it was favorite.
Okay.
Not modern, and so I had this.
That's
was prepared to say the favorite.
Yeah, your favorite's fine.
It's Catwoman from Batman.
Interesting.
She was cute, you know. She was cute, and always got everybody out of trouble. But you know, if it was a modern one, I think Thor. You know, I think Thor's pretty cool.
Yeah. So which Catwoman did you like? The Michelle Pfeiffer or what?
No, I'm talking about from the 70s.
Okay, the old school, like original TV show Catwoman.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. I don't know if I ever actually watched an episode of that.
Yeah, you gotta find that and check it out.
Old school goodness, Batman and Robin. I remember the car. I remember the Batmobile, like the prop that they had in the Batmobile. What's such a cool looking Batmobile, you know, like they made it real life. Obviously, it was a Hollywood, you know, TV series, and you know, they had to make something, and their rendition of it was pretty awesome, man. I've seen it roll around actually when I was at Disney or something like that. So. All right, Catwoman, interesting. Okay, so mine it's a little bit similar to Ryan's answer. I was thinking Captain America. Why? Because he doesn't really have any special powers either. Like he does, he has, you know, he was kind of bred from the military, but he's just kind of strong and resilient, right? He doesn't really have like, you know, X-ray vision or like, you know, he can't fly. He has to run around and do stuff. You know, he runs pretty fast, but you know, he's pretty strong, but comparatively, he's kind of an average dude if you look at the scale of superheroes. But the thing about Captain America that I like the most is that I think kind of resembles me is his attitude, his positivity. So he's always positive, always optimistic. They call it giddy optimism that you know, Stark refers to it as. And so I think I'm in the same way where, you know, I don't believe I have any kind of special ability or power. I'm just an average dude. But the thing that differentiates me, I think, is just kind of my mentality, being positive and, you know, never giving up and, you know, just fight until the end, you know. So that's kind of been my motto in the last few years, and I was like, you know what? If I was a superhero, I think this would be my guy. I think this would be him. So who knows, right or wrong? But
I like it.
Those were my cheesy thoughts on that. So if you guys are watching, who would you be? Which superhero do you think you best resemble in terms of how they're presented? I'm interested to know, because I am a Marvel fan, and or all DC too. So I'm interested.
Vinny Lafada says, "Does Ricky Bobby count?" And I said, "Absolutely, he's the best."
He's a character, right? He's not in the Marvel realm, but he is a character, and that does fit. I would say yes. All right. So number 2, since we're doing kind of the southern states right now, this is appropriate, right? Country music, is it for you?
Oh, Keevin.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, Keevin. Okay, let's go.
Sure.
Keevin, Texas. Is country music your jam? I want to know.
It's not, but every time I'm out in California or Vegas or whatever, I hear George Strait singing Amarillo by Morning. You gotta
more
love
than you
that
do in
song.
Texas.
Yeah. I like the old school country. But I'm probably an alt rock guy.
Mm. Yeah. What kind of bands? What like 90s alt rock?
No, a little more modern probably, okay. But I like it all. I like 70s rock. I'm not a big metal hair band guy, but modern alt rock, I think probably what I listen to the most.
Okay, cool. All right, Ryan, are you down with country music? Do you have like a music preference?
Definitely. Not country music is not for me. If I had to say, like, I'm not a country enthusiast by any means, but would you refer to it as like pop country? Like most of the stuff you hear on the radio?
I guess you can refer to it that, because it is, whatever is on the radio is kind of popular, pop music. So pop country.
All that stuff is definitely a hard pass for me, but there are, like, the only one I could name is every once in a while I like to listen and watch the Tiny Desk concerts by NPR, and sometimes they'll have some interesting artists on there. And he's definitely a well-known artist, would be Chris Stapleton, and his set was really good. I was like, you know what, some of his acoustic sets and maybe even his normal stuff, I could get down with that sometimes. So it's definitely not like for me all the time, but every once in a while, if it's like actual, like, real country, I might give it a shot.
Gotcha. So yeah, for me, I actually like country music. Surprisingly enough, I don't listen to it often.
Modern or old
dude,
school?
I don't categorize it like that. I just feel like it's just country, old, new, modern, classic, whatever. It's kind of, it's a genre of music I rarely listen to. But the reason why, or how I got in listening to it, was the guy that I started racing with in Portland, who actually won the Reedy Open race in 2000, and I want to say 2011 or 12. He went down. So we worked together at the track. Like, practiced every day. We were both on Team Kyosho at the time. We had a mission that we wanted to get faster. And at that time, I was learning how to get faster and learning how to be a fast guy. What do they do? How do they practice? What things are they changing on their cars? What does this do and that do? So I was kind of gaining that knowledge at that time through my buddy Sean Dunlap. And then he was getting faster. He went down to the Reedy race one year, won the 2-wheel open class, and came back. And I knew at that point our experiment, or our plan, or our idea, what we were doing, was working. Because if he was able to take what we were doing at the track and the way we practiced and we approached the car setup and stuff, if he was able to go to a really big race like the Reedy Open and win, that just kind of says, yeah, this stuff works, or whatever you're doing is working. So from that guy, he was that's all he listened to was country music. So every time we were at the track, or every time we were in his car, and every time we drove to a race, so it was hours of country music. And eventually I ended up kind of, actually liking it, like I was around it enough. I heard it all the time, and I can appreciate it. So it is nice to have friends like that kind of open your mind a little bit to different things and different, something that you might not think you would enjoy, but because you do get to experience, you do enjoy it, and you're like, you know what, this stuff is really cool. The country music, I find it like, there's always a good story. It's a very it has a lot of meaning, and you can always learn something from a country song. It seems like, bad or good. So yeah, country, yes and no. For me, I'm not a diehard fan. I did watch the Garth Brooks documentary on Netflix. Wow, that was awesome. What a guy, man. He is one of the most talented performers, entertainers, musicians, whatever you want to categorize him as. He's one of the best, like, ever. So if you haven't checked that out, I would recommend it. Garth Brooks documentary. It's just 2 episodes, and it's just fascinating because at one point in time, this guy outsold Michael Jackson. Outsold, and they were all battling in the same time. They outsold Nirvana. He outsold U2. He outsold everybody.
And there was an outdoor RC track in his hometown, just down the highway in Yukon, Oklahoma. Yeah.
Dang. There it is.
I think it's coming back. They're rebuilding it.
Cool. That would be such a cool race, just because of who Garth Brooks is. And I didn't know much about him until I watched that documentary. I knew kind of like some of the general things about, obviously he's one of the best selling country music artists, but I didn't know how big he was and who he compared to. He outsold Michael Jackson, man. That's saying something.
Our buddy Tom up here, he mentions Johnny Cash, and he's right. Johnny, everybody likes Johnny. I don't care what kind of music you're in, he inspires people.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, and I think Johnny Cash actually inspired Garth.
Yeah.
So, all right, the last question. Southern theme again. Barbecue. What is the best barbecue you've ever had?
Ooh, I think this is more of like information sharing time, because like you probably, unless you've been there and tried it yourself, it'd be hard for you to formulate an opinion, I guess. So for me, there's a place in my downtown area down here in downtown St. Pete called Dr. Barbecue. And yeah, it's really, it's like a nicer, I don't want to say upscale because it's not like the most expensive thing in the world, but I really like how, like, when you walk in the front door, there's a list on like disposable paper where they write in Sharpie the types of cuts that they've smoked for that day or however long it takes to make them. And it's like, that's what's going to be available on the menu today. And so it's really good. And then they have a ton of different barbecue sauces that they keep in like old whiskey bottles. And then it's really fun experience, and fries are really good. So all around, I'd say that if you're in the St. Pete area, or if you're coming to Tampa Bay and you want to get some barbecue when you come down here to race one of these tracks for Super Cup or whatever, go check out Dr. Barbecue in downtown St. Pete. I think that you would thoroughly enjoy it.
There you go. All right. Keevin, what do you think, man? What's the best barbecue? It could be even like your uncle's backyard barbecue. You know what I mean? Like there's no, it's just.
I got to be honest, I'm not a big barbecue guy, but give me a barbecue sandwich. But I'll tell you what's weird, and I don't know if it's the best way everywhere, but in this town, all the guys I know that get barbecue, they get a Frito pie. Have you ever heard of that?
No. What is a Frito pie?
It's Fritos with meat and beans on it. You never heard of that?
No, dude.
They always serve it at the football games and stuff, and all the barbecue shops in town have Frito pie, and it's like the whole to-go plate full, of chipped beef, beans, and Fritos all together.
Oh, that sounds awesome, man. I'm picturing it in my head right now, and that's something I could bite on, I think.
It's almost as good as putting Fritos on your sandwich,
Dude, yeah, Fritos can't go wrong. They kind of make anything good. Fritos and chili, Fritos and just on your burger, whatever. Yeah.
Right.
I'll take it. I'll try that. Yeah, for me, barbecue. So, being from the Northwest, we had barbecue, but it wasn't like when I got to travel a lot in the South when I lived in Florida, going to some of this East Coast race, barbecue, big thing down there. And I'm not a big picky barbecue guy, so like I like Sunnies, like the fast food Sunnies. Like I don't know if you had those in your area, but man, it's like every time I go to Sunny's, I eat a lot, and that's usually a tall tale sign of it's pretty good. You know what I mean? So not picky about food. What's that?
That stuff is heavy.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Baby back ribs, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the different sauces. Love barbecue, but yeah, I'm not really too picky. I haven't had a place that was like, oh my god, this is the best ever. It. Yeah, I can do any barbecue, Sunny's or whatever. Works good. All right, so that is the Breezer questions. Now let's talk about the next part of what I really want to talk about is the racing that happened over the weekend. Yeah, Ryan, dude, tell us about the Super Cup last weekend, man. It was kind of the first big Super Cup back after this whole COVID thing. They were kind of weary if it was going to happen, and I'm glad it happened, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah, it was. It was an exciting weekend. There was just so much going on that was challenging and unexpected. So here, I have this prepared. Okay, so see these tires? Can we all know what they are?
If I hold on, let me screen you. I think I can screen you up on this. There you go.
Oh gosh. Oh, front and center. Okay. So I'll make this quick. The days of practice leading into the event, I was on slicked out, like soft long wear compound stuff. Sorry, my dog is whining in the background. Then there was, I kid you not, I've been racing at SS for probably 3 years now, and everyone's been there when it has started raining. And it usually is like stereotypical Florida rainstorm, rolls in for about 30 minutes, rolls out, and then we're back to normal. It doesn't affect the track much. It rained all day. And when I say it rained, I'm talking about the ocean just appeared above the track and was dumped on the SS facility. And there was at one point we were contemplating not calling the race, but because there was so much water on the track, this is a covered track for those of you that don't know, we were going to makeshift and make the track shorter and just cut out the part that got wet because it was just so gnarly. Which if you've been to SS, you should know, like, wow, that's insane.
So was it just raining sideways and part of the track got wet or something?
So if you I know you've been there. It was
I've been there. I'm just trying to get a picture for everybody.
On the back side of the track, like as you were on the driver's stand and looking at it, that all section was getting rained in, and then the wind kind of shifted. So then both sides, left and right, kind of got water coming in on it based on how the wind was kind of shifting around. So it was a major bummer because this track we're on this tire. It's a really hard pack, sugared surface. So a slicked out tire that you could just run and run and run and run, and it just got better and better. It was great. Like I literally ran laps and was able to determine that this was the fastest tire. Well, insert water. We immediately, all of us, the JC guys, everyone else, any pin tire that you had, this is just like a whole shot or mini pins or kind of tire. You had to have this because the track was just so slick. Then by the end, it kind of let up and it dried out for a few hours that we all went to a harder compound tire with full tread because you still had to deal with the loose dirt. And you kind of see that there's some dirt caked in here a little bit. So that's all my little science experiment I had to show you for the second. So the rest of it, I could just talk like normal. But basically, it was really challenging because this all happened over the period of like maybe a round. Like each round was different. Like we were literally going out on a different tire, and in my case, a different setup from round to round. So it really kind of through a test of like your knowledge of how can you put mechanical grip in the car, or what are you going to do to your tires to make them grip a little bit better. So by no means is this SS Raceway's fault or it was anything that could have been prevented. It was literally Mother Nature. So it was neat to see. But then you had OGs like JR Mitch. It was really awesome to see him back out there racing again because, I mean, if anybody knows good old-fashioned outdoor loose dirt 10 scale racing, it'd be JR Mitch, Jason Rona, all those guys. They know it. Paul Wynn, like the back of their hand. So they're just like, all right, we're getting ready for some loose dirt racing. And he did really good. Before it got really loose, I actually did pretty good. I qualified 5th in the 2-wheel drive buggy main there for the first round. And I was like, dang, this is great. It was my first weekend I was debuting running in the mod class. So I was like really nervous about it. Didn't know how I was going to do. So getting the car set up, dialed in, it was going pretty well. But then just Mother Nature threw in a big wrench into everything. And then had some mechanical issues plague me in the mains. I DNF'd in both my 2-wheel and my 4-wheel main, unfortunately. So that was a major bummer. But JR, he was able to throw it up there for the 2-wheel class. He put it 3rd on the podium behind Spencer and Lee. And then in the 4-wheel drive class, we had Hunter King sneak up on there on the podium as well behind Spencer and Lee. And I was running with him in that main. Hunter, if you're watching, I had you, bro. Those next you were done. You were mine. No, I'm kidding. He was doing really good and he was really fast. So it's really cool to see him up there. But that's about everything that we had for the TLR guys. And then the whole Super Cup experience is really neat to see. We had well over 100 entries, which was great to see everybody kind of eager to get out there and run their 22X4s and just get out there and run RC again. So that was a really fun and challenging weekend of Super Cup.
Yeah, the tire, it's even though you're covered, even though you're technically running, I guess, indoor, but not really, because the sides are open, you're still adverse to humidity. It is a tricky thing to run outdoors in Florida. I'm not coming from the Northwest. I if we're indoors, we ran clay tires. Outdoors, it's one like green, just for us reflex, or whole shots for everybody else. It's pretty simple. You don't bounce around the tires too much. When I moved to Florida, every run was a different tire. A morning tire was a different tire. Afternoon tire was a different tire. Your main tire was a different tire, and then your A2 might be a different tire. Like every time it was a different run, and it was so hard to understand what was going on or what tire you need to be on. It definitely paid off a lot if you had a lot of experience to that kind of adversity.
Yeah, as far as like car setup too, there may have been some people that experienced success and just left their cars alone. I definitely wasn't one of those people. I was trying to get a little bit more mechanical grip and cooperation, if you will, out of my car. So like, for example, my 2-wheel, I had it on 40 weight oil up in the front shock and 35 weight oil in the back, which is pretty heavy for like an outdoor track in Florida, especially when the temps weren't that high. But then by the end of the week, I was on 32-27 because I had lost all the grip in the track and I was just trying to get the car into the track. There may have been some guys that did fine without doing that, but definitely to me, it got better and it allowed me to drive in the little bit looser conditions.
Wow. So you went from 40 weight front, 35 in the back to 32-27. That's a huge drastic difference.
And I dropped my hubs. So in the days where I was running slick tire, that was 40 weight 35. And then I had my hubs at +2 all the way around, pretty standard. But then by the time we got to this stuff, I put my hubs, dropped them all the way down to give myself a little bit more grip, edginess, whatever you want to call it. And and then dropped the shock oil too. So I was doing everything I could to get the grip in the car, and it worked for the record. But it was kind of fascinating that we had to go through something like that over the weekend.
In one day, squat where it was. Did you change the toe and the squat at all?
So I did play with it.
A little bit,
Anytime that I give the car a little bit more toe, it just slowed down the rotation too much. Yeah. So I left that at what did I leave it at? Center in the C and 0.5 down and out on the D is where I was. And then we left droop alone. That was standard. And then I played with battery position. That was another thing that I played around with. I left the weight, just the 19-gram brass plate under the battery, standard size, 4,000 milliamp 2S battery. And then, that was all that I did there. It was a little bit challenging because normally in stock, what I normally run, we just like pretty much lock the slipper down. We don't really set it. We just like send it. So I played with my slipper a little bit too to see if I could gain a little bit out of it there, some stability out of that as well. So I was throwing everything at it, man.
Yeah, tricky situation running in Florida sometimes, especially if you're outdoors. Like I said, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to because, like I said, JR was there, and Eric Everett, he was pitting right next to me, and I didn't even have the hub inserts, the 04s, because I think I had them in a different car at home. So shout out to Eric getting me all the grip I needed for the main, giving me those 04 inserts so I could flip those things and drop them all the way down for the main.
Yeah, that adjustment actually has been starting to make like a lot more people are starting to play with that adjustment now. The hub height. It seems to be a very popular setup change. When you're on dirt, you run it lower. You're on carpet, you run it higher. It seems to be kind of the standard. Pretty fascinating. That's one of the tricks. We never actually had to play with that before. A couple of years ago, and now that's kind of come in. Changing your diff height also has kind of come in. So a lot of people now, guys are tuning, their diff position and their hub position. So, depending on how much grip there is it, do you guys feel like there's a lot, like too much tuning, or is this tuning required for certain situations? Like
I think part of it is we're using these cars on so many different surfaces, Like one weekend you run on carpet, the next weekend you're on dirt, and you basically turn the car inside out,
Yeah.
And I remember when you could change the toe in with your hubs, So
yeah,
that's not there anymore, And sometimes I think that might be good, to tow it in with the hubs and not the arm mount, But
yep.
It's kind of weird.
I remember back in the day it was 1.5 in the suspension mount and then 1.5 on the hub, and you got a total of 3 that way. And the theory was that when the suspension compressed and leaned, it was doing something different than if you had all 3 in the suspension mount. With the mechanical grip or the bind would be a lot different, supposedly. I don't know. I never got to test that back to back to see if that theory actually worked, but it's very interesting. A lot of interesting information out there. Trail is also another thing that people are starting to adjust a little bit. Front trail, which is the front spindle being set back a little bit. Standards 4. I think Dakota runs his at 3. Some guys run theirs at 2. So that trail also affects the steering feel. Like if it's a short trail, it's very direct and fast and precise, and then if it's 4 trail, it's a little bit lazier and just a little less steering, less aggressive. So there's a
no, I was gonna say I put up a poll in one of the TLR groups on Facebook, and I asked the question, do you guys set up a car so that it has a lot of mechanical steering and it just has does a lot of it for you kind of thing? Or do you put push in the car so that you have to really force it and drive it into a corner? And I think I had over 100 votes for each. And it was almost a dead even split of how people like their cars to be. So I thought that was really fascinating because it's yes, on one side of the coin, you could say all these adjustments are going to drive people away from the hobby. But there's probably, if that's not the reason, there's probably 10 other reasons why that person wouldn't want to be involved in RC. So I look at it for the people that get into it, they learn about it, they develop a driving style, and then they can learn to set up a car to suit their driving style. And I think that's really cool. And that's one of the things that makes RC so much fun for me personally.
I think you're exactly right. I learned things about an RC car, and then, I deal with razors and side-by-sides and guys that race them and all, and they come in and I'm like, well, have you ever tried towing the front end out a little bit, or, towing the back end out? This is what does that. This does that. And they're all like, wow, how do you know that? Well, you're going to laugh, but from running little RC cars, I learned that, and it's for real cars, to a certain degree, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I shared a post which really connected with me. It was from somebody else that wrote it, and it just made so much sense to why I'm so passionate about racing, to why I'm so passionate about just RC in general. Um, and I'll just read it real quick. You know, I shared it, and I just said beautiful because it's exactly why some of the positive things about RC racing that I think a lot of people overlook because they see the cost value of it, they see the time value, but they don't actually see what they're getting into. The question was, this is from Christian Villar Sanchez that he posted, I think 2 days ago now, and it says something like, you know, a friend asked me, why are you spending so much money and time for your kid to train with RC cars, and he doesn't even win first place, you know? And so his answer was, well, I have a confession to make. I don't pay for my son's training and running with RC cars. And what I am paying for is, you know, first I pay for his smile because this is the greatest passion. This is his greatest passion. I pay for my son to learn to be disciplined. I pay because my son learns to take care of his body and mind. I pay because my son learns to work with others and be a good teammate. I pay for my son to learn how to deal with disappointment and when he doesn't get what he expects and knows he has to work hard and to achieve his goals. You know, I pay my son to realize that it takes hours and hours of hard work and training to earn and success and realize it doesn't happen overnight. You know, so like I can go on, but each part of this, each thing that he mentions, it really makes sense because at this level of racing, it's no longer really, you know, a hobby, and these are really no longer toy cars, you know.
I've never liked that saying, toy cars.
Yeah,
You know,
you can downplay it as toy cars, you know, you can call it that for sure, but like to me, it's not a toy car because of the things that you can actually learn from this. You know, it's almost like a tool. It's to me like a real race car, you know, like it's a real thing that you work on, that you devote hours and hours to learn, to understand, to work with, so that you can, when you go race this thing, you can perform better and push yourself and reach that next level, and that you keep progressing and learning, you know, and expanding that skill set and that performance, you know. So I just thought that was really cool, how he worded everything, and it just really connected because, you know, that you can see one side being, you know, RC costs a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of things invested. I don't know if I want to get into this, but then you see the other side that some people see it as, and how I see it as, is something that it's more than just, you know, racing a car. You know, it's a whole lot deeper, and there's so many more levels to it, you know. And he just touched on some of the topics, you know, teaching your kid, you know, how to be responsible for and take care of certain things, especially if it's expensive, you know. Being in charge of your own program, and meeting friends and working together, and all those different life values that I think a lot of people like to dismiss when you say toy car, you know.
yeah, I like that. I think he said it really well.
Yeah, there's definitely some good stuff in it. I think I really connected, and I think I encourage everybody to check that out on my Facebook page. I don't think I could word it any better, about why like racing is important. You know, why RC racing is important is that sentiment of you know, allowing somebody, your child or you or a brother, sister, a friend, you know, that opportunity to learn so many different life skills and life lessons, you know, not just driving something and having fun. You know, it can be as simple as that, but it can be so much deeper if you actually look at it at a bigger picture. So yeah, so Keevin, let us know what your racing update is real quick. Super Cup sounded like a great time. I do want to give shout outs to JR Mitch, who did fantastic, man. I'm super stoked. You know, I called JR afterwards to get the kind of the lowdown of how the weekend went for him. You know, something I like to do with some of my guys. You know, if they have a good weekend or if they had a bad weekend, I want to know about it and talk about it, so that we can improve, or just, you know, what things went right, so I can just be, an ear so I can, give him, a high five and an awesome job. So he downloaded everything to me right after that race, and he was happy. He was just like, he knew what he was up against. He told me that the race there at SS is always crazy. So his mindset was, just stay clear of accidents because people are going to wreck out, and then just move on up and just don't make mistakes. So he knew he wasn't the fastest guy. He started 9th on the grid, moved his way up against some real heavy hitters in Florida, including guys like, Jason Rona, Paul Wynn, and, so there's some fast guys there, and was able to move himself into 3rd place, finished 3rd in 2 mod. I think that's as good as it was going to be for JR, just because of working full time and all that jazz, and having a family now, and in the process of building that side of his life. So I think that's probably the best result he was going to be able to do, a 3rd place against Elise Setzer, who is, that's his track, man. He's going to be hard to beat there. And then you got Spencer, who is obviously 2-time world champion, coming in, practicing Thursday, Friday, Saturday to get up to speed, and he's going to be a tough contender no matter where he goes. So 3rd place for JR is a great feat for him. And I know he's happy about that. And the funny thing is, I was on the phone with him pretty much every day up until that race, just trying to get him sped up in terms of what he needed to do with the car, what's the latest and greatest, what's the setup these guys are running, because he's kind of been absent for quite a while, just kind of laying low. But it's nice to hear him come back, do some racing, and still be as effective as he is, man. That guy, he is so quick sometimes. I don't think he really realized it. Because sometimes I watch him at practice, and his first pack, when we used to go to a lot of races together, he would be his first pack or his first tank on the track. And he's just standing there like on one leg, I'm just looking up and, see where's Jared? Is he up there? Yeah, he's there. And he's standing up there one leg with his legs crossed behind his back, like, his back legs like crossed behind his back, so he's just kind of like, he doesn't look like he's just like standing, like not really caring, he's just taking it ginger, and just just looking at his car and driving the track. And then I look at the track and watch his car, and I'm like, dude, this guy's dialed already, like what the hell, I'm like and it's his first pack, man, and he's standing up there like he don't care, just just doing laps. And then I'm watching his car, and I'm like, dang, this dude's dialed already. Like he's got like, and that always impresses me about JR, because no matter how much he runs or how little he runs, he's still so fast. He's just got that speed, that ability, Hunter King, another standout driver for us this week, last weekend, full-wheel modified, finished 3rd. Spencer and Lee battled it out, had a great race, and then coming in 3rd was Hunter King, who actually I don't really know too well, to be honest. He moved to Florida recently, yeah.
Yeah, up there in North Florida. He's mentioned the city to me before, and I honestly forget. I just know that it was about 5-6 hours for him to get to SS. Oh. So he's way up there.
Yeah, Tallahassee side.
Yeah. Him and his dad Rob come down, and they are responsible for Colton and his dad and family getting in and driving down their RV to come to this weekend, so that their son is actually really cool. So they ran his 22X4 in the 21.5 handout class, because it was literally his first race ever. So he's out there, he's putting in laps, and he's keeping it off of the pipes, and he's just getting around the track, and it was great. And then Dave Duncan, and I don't know if it was his call or if it was a collection of thought, but they gave him and one other kid that were really new their own feature for the main round, which was really cool. So they got to go out there and run, and everybody was kind of like gathered around the track, and they were just like cheering them on, and it was really awesome. And then they took their podium picture together. So that was really neat to see that there was that much enthusiasm and excitement to get these new kids into the hobby. And I had the privilege of sitting they were kind of a couple tables down from me. So he was always coming over and asking me if he should wash his tires or if he should do this or that. So it was really great to see them so fresh in the hobby and be able to help them out.
It's different, man. When you're fresh and new, they have that that innocence, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's different when you know you spend years in the hobby. That innocence kind of goes away, and I think all of us can remember what it's like, that one period where you get really into it and you start learning and you can't get enough. You know, you want to keep going to the track. You want to be around the cars. You want to talk to people and learn as much as you can. And you know, it's that stage is so cool to watch other people. I can't get myself into there anymore because it's, you know, it's many years into it now, but I remember that time when I was that age and at that stage, and it's so cool. And I always get reminded once in a while when I meet random people and I can see like, wow, these guys are really into it. I love this, you know. It's like that's just fantastic. That
you know, that's hard for a lot of those kids too, is going out there for the first time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
intimidating at a big race,
motocross or RC or whatever. You know, I couldn't imagine going to my first event, you know, and having to learn everything like that. That's what I think we all need to do better with some of these guys that have never been out there. You know, some of them are 8 years old, some of them are 38 years old, you know, and they're out there for the first time. And I think that's one of the things we need to do is, you know, how to make those guys feel comfortable, you know. And it's not always easy, but I think that's one of the best things we need to do at the track is try to get those guys that are out there for the first time, you know, to give them a good impression and, you know, make them feel comfortable at the track, like, you know, like you're not a weirdo or something, you know, that they don't know what's going on, you know.
Right.
Yeah, we see that a little bit, but try to help those guys.
I think helping is going to make the biggest difference. You know, everybody wants to wait around for, you know, something to happen, something magical to happen that gives RC this instant fame, instant notoriety, and it gets widely accepted, and everybody knows what it is. You know, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. If it hasn't happened now with the media that, you know, the social media and the videos that we have now, I don't think it's going to happen. So I think to be honest, it's more up to us, the people in the industry, not just people that work in the industry, but racers that are racing in the industry. I think it's up to us to really kind of reach out and help grow RCs, not just you know, do the companies or wait for ESPN to air something for us and you know, kind of kickstart something. I think we actually have the power to build this hobby. We just have to be aware that we actually have that ability. You know, we go out there and we race and it's great. We have a great time. We go home, you know, but sometimes we forget, like, you know, ask yourself, did I help anybody today? You know, did I get anybody involved? Did I give a hand? You know, like, and if the answer at the end of the day is no, maybe you should look, you know, and maybe change that. And at the end of the day, you can say, yeah, I helped a lot of people. You know what I mean? And that's what it's going to really take to really kind of open this RC thing to more people, is us sharing it with others, you know, our friends, families, coworkers, you know, and invite them to come out to the track, watch it, you know, maybe even say, hey, you know what, I'm going to sit back for the day. I'm going to bring you to the track and you're just going to drive my car, and that's it. End of story. I don't want to hear any arguments. Just come out and drive. You know, I'll do all the wrenching. I'll put the speed down, you know, some, so that's easy. And then just go out and have fun, you know. And then I bet you a lot of those people would actually start racing, you know, or at least be interested. Or, you know, you might hear, hey, when are you going to the track next? I'd like to go check it out. You know what I mean? Or hey, you know, how much does one of these things cost? This is a blast. I don't know why I haven't done this you know, before. You know, so it's up to us also to introduce it, RCs to the people around us that we feel, you know, and to me it makes sense, because if you have a buddy that you're already friends with and you're like, hey, you want to go do RCs together? It's like, yeah, and then it just becomes more fun, right? You know, so why not add more buddies to the whole racing program?
I kind of gave myself like a challenge in the middle of our little break, and I was like, all right, when I get back into it and I start racing again, what's something more that I could do? Because it's really easy for me to say a lot of things and do cool stuff behind the camera, but then like when I'm at the track, it's like I do my best to follow through on trying to be as helpful as I can there. It's hard because I'm in the spirit of competition. And if I have a bad run and then somebody comes up and asks me a question, it's like, oh, okay, all right, gotta cool down, gotta, go back into it. But I kind of have like I'll give myself like a mental break where it's like, okay, in between rounds, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna try and find somebody I don't know, and I'm just gonna ask them how their day is going. And then if it goes well, I'm gonna come back after their next run and I'm gonna try and remember to watch their car. And I'm just going to like look at it and say, hey, man, your car, it looks like when you were jumping into the flat, it looked a little bouncy. Or maybe when you were going around that corner, it looked like it was pushing out to the pipe there. And then I just try and look at his car with that information that I gained from his last run. And I just genuinely try to help him out. I don't want to be a know-it-all and be like a jerk. But I try and go in there and I really genuinely try to help this person. And it's been amazing. Some of the things that they're like, oh man, yeah, I don't know. I knew it was doing that, but I don't know. And you look at their car and you can tell that they have a bent front shock shaft because you can't get the front arm to go up and down. They don't know those things. And it's really easy for somebody, hopefully, that's a little bit seasoned in the hobby, can find those easy, beginner mistake things. So it's been a challenge for myself to build first relationships with those new people. And then like, how can I help them? And if their car's fine and they don't really need anything, like I try and give them a pair of tires or something like that. Like I try and do something so that I can improve their weekend just a little bit.
Yeah, and that's something, if each one of us kind of took that on, it would be a huge something. You know what I mean? So I think that's the right way to do this, is if we want this hobby to grow and be healthy and in the future have more people to race, competition be higher, it's going to be up to us. I think it'd be nice to have this world structure and all this money is put into some sort of fantastic program and these legit World Series races, but a lot of that takes money and there's no like free cash cow that just dumps a bunch of money in your lap and says, hey, go make a bunch of cool races. It's a lot more involved. But even then, if we have all that, does that guarantee us, a healthy future that more people will join RCs? Not really. Not if we're not helping people, right? So I think at the base is that first we got to help people get into this and have the attitude of wanting to expand RC. If we were aware of that, then we can make it happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to some questions. We've got a ton of questions. This is going to be a good one for Keevin. I think I just saw something about the 8X question here. Did I scroll past it? There was a question about what is the difference between the 8X and the 8X Elite? Like, is there a big difference? Should people upgrade?
Well, you don't have to change all those pieces out that guys like Dakota have figured out work better. Like the universals in the front, the CVs in the rear. It's got a lot of little things on it that a lot of guys are having to add to their kit. And it's just, another notch up, being ready to go race, which, it's better. That's what we like about the TLR deals. They're always looking to step up their game and just, that much little more consistent, that much easier to drive, relates into little bits of seconds a lap, which relates into 3 seconds a lap at the end of your heat race,
Yeah.
But I think that, it's definitely pretty with the black shock towers are super cool,
Yeah. Yeah. So the Elite package, one of the biggest difference, I think, is a shorter chassis. It has a -3 chassis on it. That helps out a lot. I think the car was a little bit long and it made it harder to drive or less predictable and stable with the -3 chassis and some of the changes that they've made on the car. I think altogether has become a very good package. The Elite package is really nice because it packages the extra add-ons and things like sway bars. You get all the sway bars come into the kit so you can tune the car. If the kit sway bars, a 2.4 and a 2.6 are too thick for your track, you can change your sway bars and be able to get it dialed in closer to your track conditions. It also comes with the bladders, which are nice for some people that like to run the bladder shocks. I usually like to run the emulsion
bladder,
shocks.
right?
What's that?
The better bladder than it's
Yeah.
little
So
softer,
yeah,
right?
I think it's actually a little stiffer or something, right?
Oh, yeah, it's just reinforced differently or something.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't actually ran the bladder shocks. I've only played with emulsion shocks. It's just what I usually prefer. Just a little bit easier to drive for me. Sometimes maybe not as fast in terms of lap time or corner speed, but it's always pretty dialed. So yeah, the black parts are a really nice package. The extra tuning option parts that comes with the car is a sweet package. It has everything that you need to get up and going. That's the latest setup for the 8X. Is now the 8X Elite, so check that out. And some really good stuff, man. All right, so we've got all right, so this is the name of where the Southern Nationals is. Charlie Mack hooked it up, West Monroe, Louisiana, at the Ike Expo Center. So if you want to check out the Race Time Entertainment race, which took it over just recently, the Southern Nationals will be happening September 18th through the 20th. And then AMS November 5th to the 8th has been rescheduled to then. So the only bummer that one of my favorite races that we can't get to go to is the Wicked Weekend, is August 13th through the 16th in Gainesville, Georgia. Unfortunately, that is scheduled right around 10 Scale Nationals. Same weekend, unfortunately. But 10 Scale Nationals might not go down from what I hear. So that might be on pause as well. They're still deciding what's going to happen with that. And I think they're going to make an announcement pretty soon. I was just talking to Chuck, the president of Roar, asking him what the situation was, and he says he's going to make an announcement probably this week. So I'll let them announce what they need to without me mixing it up. But from what I've heard, is that they're not. It's definitely not going to be at Mimi's. They're trying to find a second spot, but it doesn't sound like it seems kind of gloomy. So I don't really know for sure. We'll hear more with the announcement, but that's the update that I got. And man, so unfortunately, the Roar Nationals might be going down, and it might not. Kind of hard to say. All right, so let's check it out. Looks like some questions here. All right, so this is Joe Pillars, man. I think he hit it on the head. When Cavalier Tebow Mayfield started winning, everyone's partying stopped. I think he's pretty right on this, because there was a moment where it got serious, and it shifted dramatically. It went from like the rock stars partying and having a great time, showing up and just destroying people. It became a different level of intensity, and people got serious. They started stop partying all late, going to random clubs, getting in trouble. It seems, and I think this is. What do you guys think, Joe? You think Joe's right?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's all right. Yeah, those guys, they were fast since they were kids. They were racing when they were 11 and 12. I watched them grow up, and most of them, they had tempers, but when they grew up and became young adults, and you could see the difference in those guys, the way they prepared, the way they acted on the track, on the driver's stand, all the way through. I've honestly, when those kids were younger, I just kind of shook my head, and then when they got older, I became friends with those guys, and I have a lot of respect for how hard they work, and all of them, they're role models to a lot of kids, even me, they're my role model in a lot of ways too. When you watch those guys at the track, it's kind of cool to see, but they changed things when they got a little older, when they were younger, just like Cav won, him and Mark swapped last lap passes, for national championships, when he was a kid, and, but when he got a little older, he became, one of the Ryans, was going to win every weekend,
Yeah, one of the Ryans, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think Joe's pretty correct, man. Definitely when those three guys came into the scene changed. They basically, those guys booted the guys that used to rule the roost. You know what I mean? Like the Matt Francis, the Mark Pavitas, those guys that were once, at the front of this, the Brian Kinwalds, they were at the front of this and the fastest guys. And then when the next generation came, they really took no prisoners. They came out there swinging, trying to win every single race that they were a part of. And man, between those three guys, they won a lot of races.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Joe's probably pretty close to being right. So Ohio 737 Project, he says if he was a superhero, it would be Deadpool. Good choice, man. I like Deadpool. So Jeffrey Smith got something for Ryan here. I blame Ryan Stiles for me wanting to get a Losi Stadium truck setup going. There you go.
Sounds like a good time.
Truck, baby. Is it ever going to make a comeback?
I mean, it probably won't be as big as two-wheel or four-wheel, but I like that it's around because I like keeping that as an option or a suggestion to people that are just getting in, because I think that a truck is easier to maintain than a four-wheel. Doesn't go through tires as fast as a buggy. And all around, I think it's got a little bit more grip than a two-wheel. So to me, it's like a viable option for getting somebody into the hobby.
Yes, I love truck class. I'm not a fan of the mid-motor trucks. That's all I'm going to say.
Kind of the way in macro, the truggy is tough. You can crash that thing hard, and it just soaks it up. Is the stadium truck a little tougher than the 10-scale buggy, you think?
Yeah, I would say by a lot, just because of the big tires, the big arms, bigger shocks, everything's kind of dulled down a little bit. It's just that now the mid-motor trucks are so hard to drive because of the configuration that they're in. And then when you match up the big oversized front rear tires together, the balance of these things are just very just not right. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a roar restriction of their regulation of their dimensions of a truck that's the cause of it, but as they're just very hard to drive. It's like sometimes you have too much steering. Sometimes they just want to spin out constantly. Sometimes they're just, I love truck when it was a rear motor truck and you can slide things around. You pull the gas, it goes straight. Now when you go into a turn and if you don't have like ultimate grip, they just want to spin out constantly, and then you get on the gas and it's just like, man, this thing's terrible. But it's been a while. I haven't driven stadium truck in a while, so maybe I need to revisit that and take a look. So Aaron Perks, Ant-Man, underestimated, man. That's a good choice right there. It's flying under the radar a little bit. Not one of the main guys, but definitely an effective superhero for the Marvel Universe. All right. There we go. Looks like Nico Listy. What's going on, Nico? Thanks for joining. As always, one of our mega stars here that's always part of the show, saying hi. And yep, he just finished his travels to Lindale for the Texas RC Pro Series kickoff. Nice job, man. Oh, he's ready for the weekend. That's where you're going, right, Keevin?
Yeah.
There.
That's Nico is. I think he's 9 or 10, and he's a TLR guy. He's not on the team yet. That's what we've been talking about. And him and his dad, they go to the races, they do it right. And I think Nico is a hands-on kid, and those guys are hitting a lot of races, and seems like a really outgoing, optimistic family that they do it together, and they represent well. So looking forward to meeting those guys this weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've seen them, their questions, their interactions, their motivation is all there. I'll be interested in how you guys get along, and interested to see how that goes and how he races. Jeffrey Smith, dibs on Steel, man. Steel, man of Steel, really interesting. Charlie Mack, I'm a Nick Fury kind of guy. Get the job done without the tickers tape parade. All right. No country music for William Garcia. Yeah, it's really weird country music. It's some people really just love it, and some people can't stand it. It's either yes or no. It's not like I'm in between. Like I kind of listen to it sometimes. I kind of don't. It's either like you listen to it or you don't. It's crazy.
Amarillo by morning.
Should we play that right now? Okay. Oh, there you go. See. Jesus muchacho, I'm from Venezuela, but hanging out with country people, I start liking that music. See? The influence, man. It really depends on who you hang out with or who's part of your influence, that circle of yours. You can get into country music. It's not bad. It's actually really, really good. All right. There we go. Oh, man. Sometimes when I'm scrolling through this, it just takes a major scroll and it loses exactly where I'm at. It's not fun. All right, there we go.
Rob commented on getting new people into the hobby, and that reminds me of something we do at our track. Like, if you show up and you've never raced, you race for free.
Yeah.
So that's like a first timer thing. Your first race is free.
There it is, Tom Heim. There he is, man. He's one of the guys that doesn't know what a Frito pie is either. Please tell me what a Frito pie is. I'm from England. And another one, here we go. A Frito pie comment. Ron Cleaton, Frito pie, Frito corn chips, chopped barbecue beef, beans, cheese, and a barbecue sauce. Bam! Just so like that.
At the football game, you take the bag of Fritos and you slice the end open, leave the Fritos in the bag, pour the chili and cheese on, and you eat it out of the bag, see?
What?
Just imagine that. You're at a football game and it's 40 degrees out, and you've got this Frito pie there to eat. It's so good.
Dang, man. When I was in Australia, my buddy that was showing me around, we went to a football game, a rugby game, and we were watching in the stadium. It was really cool. My first experience of really watching rugby live, and he goes, "Hey, I forget what they were called. It's called a meat pie, I think." He was like, "Hey, you ever have one of these meat pies or something like that?" And I'm like, "Meat pie? Like you gotta have one. This is like a Australian tradition for when you go to the stadium, you gotta get a meat pie." And I'm like, "Okay." So he ends up getting a couple of meat pies. I try it for the first time. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a chicken pot pie, but like, I don't know, really kind of not so good meat in it. Yeah, it was all right. I don't, I could definitely eat a couple of those, but I don't know. It wasn't like my favorite thing, but it was cool. But that was their Frito. We have our Frito pie. They have their meat pie. So interesting, man. There we go. 100 King. Man, I was catching Spencer and Lee. Wow. Impressive, my man. Impressive. If you're catching those guys, whew. All right. All right, here we go. Jasmine Hernandez says, what camera do you use for your awesome video quality YouTube guru? I think he's talking to you, Keevin. I think she's talking because your camera worked, man.
I didn't want to look so ugly, so I got the low
All right. This question's for Ryan. Ryan, what's your camera setup? People want to know, man, because you got the quality. They want to know how to recreate this. Actually, he replies. There he goes. Canon the 5D Mark IV, and he's using software that Canon released to do I believe it's what you can use HDMI and pass it through your camera.
Kind
software.
Of. The EOS beta utility, that is a thing, but I am actually not using that at the moment. I am using the things that are currently treated as gold, the HDMI converter cables to the HDMI to USB. That's what I'm using at the moment.
Oh, so it can just go to a USB. It just detects it as a USB device.
Yeah, it's a capture card. It just captures it at 4K and then it converts it into a USB signal then my computer just reads it as an available camera on my computer.
Gotcha. There you go. Pretty dialed setup. If you want to get all the latest and greatest, I'm sure Ryan is more than happy to share with you if you text him.
Yeah, sure.
Text him any kind of questions about setup. He'll help you out.
Honestly, I do get that question from time to time in my Instagram DM or a Facebook Messenger. So I am no stranger to it, and I would be more than happy to answer it, whatever your tech video related question is. Audio is another favorite one of mine too.
This is an interesting one by Ryan Yamasaki. He says, I worked on full-size race cars and motorcycles for over 20 years. The more adjustments, the better. I just wish full-size to RC car adjustments translated the same. Interesting. I wonder what parts is Ryan talking about that doesn't translate the same. I would imagine a lot of the theories and how they would affect the car would be, kind of similar from a scaled down version to the real deal. But I've never worked on the real deal race car before in terms of actual a race car. I just maybe some track cars or some SCCA autocross type of cars, but nothing really like race team quality stuff.
So this is a little bit. It comes from this, and it's something that I actually talked to Justin Doyle about because he works for Penske
NASCAR
racing team.
Yep.
And he knows a lot of NASCAR things. Do you know the history, a little bit, brief history of Jeff Gordon's T-Rex car?
No, don't think so.
No? Keevin? No? Okay. I didn't know too much about it either until I was on a deep dive of YouTube one night. And I stumbled across it. And it's funny because I remember the paint scheme from when I was a kid. And I saw the car go around the track. Maybe some of you guys in the chat know what I'm talking about. But I took what they based this car on, and I took the same philosophy and I applied it to my two-wheel drive buggy. And I was just like, you know what? Let's try something. Let's do something fun. And the whole thing was based on, and I could get this mildly wrong, setting up the rear end of the car to be a lot stiffer than the front. So basically, like everything that we normally do, make it opposite. Now, their car was very complex and it was built from the ground up as a whole new car to be within the guidelines of NASCAR, but it ended up being so fast that they banned it because they just didn't understand what was going on. They were like, yeah, that car's too fast. You can't race it anymore. And we're going to tell you why later. So anyways, but the philosophy behind it, I took it and I was like, all right. And I actually ran it at Dean's at an outdoor dirt track and I won that weekend. So, hey, it worked.
Interesting. Yeah. Justin Doyle, pretty fascinating guy. He's he's connected. He, like you said, he works for Penske, man. He works on the oval car. Do you exactly know what he does for Penske, Ryan?
Oh no. I hope he's not watching because he'll be like, come on, man.
I think it was like something with like laser guided measurements or something like that.
Oh yeah. He's I know he works in I had never seen one before until I took a tour at his factory. The cars, when they're shaping them, I don't know if that's the correct term, but they're like literally within like thousandths of an inch. They have it in like a primer phase and they're shaping the car to get like tighter on the front quarter panel or they need to add more. And they literally will dial in the tolerances that they're allowed within the tech inspection, but they will take as much as they can. And he works in that aspect, at least to some respect. I know he does more than that, but that's one of the things that he does. And it's really freaking cool because he showed me, I saw it firsthand.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, yeah, he has a pretty cool role, I think. I think his job is probably pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, if you've seen one of his two-wheel drive bodies on his Facebook page, it's in like, it looks like that, where like some of the areas of it are like sanded down. And that's because they're like trying to, he wanted it to look like the cars that he works on. I thought it was really cool because I knew what it was.
I know his colors, like the pink and blue.
Oh yeah, the pink, blue and yellow.
Yeah, I don't know the sanded part, but
it was like a not quite a primer gray, like a purpley primer gray, and then he tried to make it look like there were certain areas that were sanded down. It was kind of cool.
Gotcha. All right. Rob King, there we go. Yes, Keevin, getting new people into the hobby should be our team focus. I definitely want to make this an effort that we focus on and we talk about, because I think that is going to really help just not just our team and the presentation of our team and what our team represents, but also it's just good for the hobby. This is not just a TLR thing. This is a hobby thing too. So if it's good for the hobby, I'm with it. All right, initial shock of the hobby is a big thing to overcome to new racers. So yeah, I think there's a lot the racing stuff is so technical these days that when people get into it, they're kind of just overwhelmed. The only thing that they really know is charging their battery, plugging the thing together and turning it on. You know what I mean? And they put their car down on the track, and there's no way they're going to know everything. So the only place that they can get kind of answers immediately is from other drivers like us. All right, let's see. Yeah, here we go. I think including the people that you never seen at the track and reach out to them, help them, which will build the hobby for sure. So it is up to us, guys. Like it is up to us to help grow RC racing. If we're racers and we want this to be more bigger, better, badder, then let's take part and take initiative and help people. At the end of the day, ask yourself: did you help somebody? Did you include somebody into your circle? All right, so here we go. There you go. Jesus Muchacho. Great way. YouTube is a great tool to make this hobby grow. Ryan, obviously you have experience in this. What is your take with the whole YouTube thing, this hobby thing? Since you've been trying to do this and trying to reach more people, what are some of what are some of the challenges still that you face? And is there a next step to this? How do we kind of just blow it up?
I think that kind of like on a broad perspective, we all talk about it, like, when's ESPN going to pick up our hobby? When's the next network going to do this thing and just make it happen for us, right?
Yeah.
So, and kind of like and looking at it from the business side of things, where has a lot of the ad spend gone over the last decade? Well, a lot of it has gone to YouTube and things like it, live streaming, Twitch and Mixer and a lot of other things like that. There are some huge contract deals that go down in these arenas because everyone is watching them. The beauty of the age that we live in now is that if you have a smartphone, it doesn't even have to necessarily be a good one. You have the ability to record something. You can put it out there on the internet and anyone could watch it.
Yeah.
So I look at it as if obviously this will never happen just because I said it, but if 10 of the team drivers on every brand started making YouTube content and they uploaded like 1 or 2 videos a month, the exponential growth and exposure that would happen from that would be huge. And the cost of making that happen would be very little. I don't want to go into details and opinions on things that we've seen in the past, but I think that's the biggest struggle, is that there's always this huge prohibitive cost factor. So for me, the ease that anyone can start making YouTube content and go out there and do it and have fun, share the adventures with their friends and the things that they learn with their cars. They don't have to be a world champion. They don't have to win on Sunday. They could finish last on Sunday. But if they put out a fun video and it's entertaining content and it's just exposure to RC in general, that's a win. And anyone can do that. So that's the kind of thing that I live and die by, if you will. Like, I mean, it's not every weekend is a win, So if you can figure out a way to make that successful and a good thing for RC, I think that YouTube is an excellent answer for that, and anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what you get to create. People, just average Joes, anybody can create these days. Like you said, you don't have to have expensive equipment. If you have a phone or some sort of device that captures stuff, a webcam or even a laptop that has a camera on it, like you're capable and able to create basically endless amounts of content. It's just really up to your imagination. You know what I mean? Like how deep do you want to make the stories? How you know, what kind of angle? And you can create all this cool stuff and then put it out there, and people can watch. And you can see like a lot of people have figured out a way to make their ordinary life kind of like an adventure or a story. You know, I follow some of these weird people that just are just average Joes, but they figured out a way to kind of make these cool little 10-minute video clips that people watch, and and it ends up having millions of views each time they make a video clip now. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and it's just something like like some simple topic like how I lied to my girlfriend, or how I cheated on my girlfriend and she got jealous. And I'm like,
Right.
people make this stuff, and I'm watching and I'm like, okay, it's kind of cool. And I'm trying to figure out what's the intrigue. And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's kind of cool, and I'm not going to watch a bunch of these things, but it's out there. It's like a self-made drama or some sort of adaptation of their life or what they want it to be, but they have these ideas and they execute, and they make a video, and people react to it. People like it.
It's interesting, like some of the people I watch, I watched, some people may know, if you're in the drift community or the car community, that Adam LZ, he's a pretty big YouTube channel. And somebody like that, he didn't even start out in the drift community, which he's kind of known for now. He did BMX videos like when he was a teenager, and he was never won X Games. He was never like a huge talent. He was just a kid that liked making videos about BMX, and now he has a huge fan base and giving exposure to all those things. Cletus McFarland, that channel, he is huge here in Florida and in the drag racing community, but he's no NHRA Top Fuel finalist guy. He's the furthest thing from it. So what I love about the YouTube culture is that as long as you're passionate about something and you can tell a story and you do it consistently, you'll find an audience, and it will be a lot of fun along the way.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a lot of fun. I don't dabble in it too much, just because there's a lot on my plate, and I would love to kind of like cut clean and then just maybe start that someday, or do something that's just primarily YouTube based. But it's just, obviously I can't focus all my time on making YouTube videos. And like, you're right, the consistency is really what is important. If you only do one video, if you start out hot and then go cold later, you have way less effect because you just fizzle out, and then you never really get your fan base back. It's really hard. So this is a good point. Mark G states, my kid and I built cars for the track. This happened, which is, I think he's referring to the COVID thing. We went to our local track to watch races a few times before we got new cars. Not a single person talked to us. That's the problem right there. You see new people watching, and you just let them watch. And what if you just said, hey, are you guys new? You guys have any questions? And then you started a conversation, and that conversation got him into the hobby. You know what I mean? Like, you made a difference right there, just by talking and saying hi. Sometimes it just takes a hi,
Yeah.
So Ryan Yamasaki actually talks about his, he mentioned earlier, that some of the he's been doing real race car setups and stuff, but some of the stuff doesn't translate. And he says, maybe make some more videos like Trish Bits YouTube channel. That's been the hardest thing for me, is finding out what changes to make and when. That is a really a good topic to make videos on, because you can make these kind of videos just about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough though, because you gotta know what you're talking about.
Really, so, a lot of those changes and the effects they have, you can ask 5 different people, what that change, the effects of it, and you'll probably get for sure 3 different answers.
If you ask somebody, hey, what does lowering my roll center in the back, what does that do? You'll get like 100 answers.
Yeah.
If you talk about roll center and lowering and then ask what it does, everybody has a different opinion about what that means.
My tuning guide out,
Yeah, it's a topic that a lot of people can make videos on, but the problem is, just like what Ryan said, is not all that information is going to be right. sometimes it's very subjective. Sometimes it's based on the track. Sometimes it's a driver style influence that changes, the way it feels. That they'll tell you something, oh, it does this, and then the other person will be like, no, it doesn't do that. It does this, and a lot of times that difference comes from how they set the car up and how they steer into the turns or whatever. So there's a driving style that, like a lot of Dakota setups, I don't think work for me, just because he likes the car to be so sharp and so quick. I want the car to have grip and make the car do a lot, so I can do little. And he likes it as fast as it can be.
I remember at Silver State one year, I was struggling with my e-buggy, and Dakota, he's out there setting fast qualifier time, and so I'm like, hey, what is your setup? And he goes, I just built it like the kit said to build it. I'm like, oh.
He rarely changes setups. Like, he'll try a few different changes, but he's the type of guy that wants to stay with the same setup wherever he goes. Yeah. And it's only until he gets his butt kicked that he actually starts making changes, because he's the kind of guy that has the talent and makes up the difference with his talent. Not everybody has that resource where they can just, I'll just rely on my talent to win this race. It's like I'm relying on my talent. I'm in like C main, 5th place. You know what I mean? So it's like, he has that luxury because he is so dang talented. All right. Let's see. Found out. Look at there. Here we go. City Sushi. I found having a spare race ready car at the track to just let interested spectators try. I not only got some people interested, but I also made a few friends in the process. So what City Sushi is talking about is having a spare car, just kind of basically a basher car, a second car that you're no longer running or racing, and just if you sold it, it'd be like $50 or something, So you get it ready to go. And so when you're at the track and somebody's kind of asking you questions or have never tried it, you can say, hey, you want to try it? And then you whip out your basher car, you set them up, and you let them have a blast. And then I bet you that person will remember you forever, especially if they've never driven an RC car before and you're the first person that some stranger allowed me to drive this RC car on the track for the first time ever. I guarantee you that person will remember you for the rest of your life. All right, so there we go. Michelle Nagy, hey Ryan, thanks for putting out all the videos. Do you know anywhere I can find a beginner's guide to chassis tuning? What resources are out there? There's a few, right?
Sure.
There's a few out there.
I've seen a few on the that Pettit setup site where they do a good job of, if there's like a tuning guide for a particular element on a car, that I've seen a lot of good stuff plugged into there. And sometimes it's even in a breakdown of, I think that there was something that was made for, I don't know if it's a resource that's for a bunch of different TLR stuff, or if it was just for the SCT 3.0. But they went into all kinds of stuff where there was like paragraphs of like pill changes and this and that, and it does this if you're looking for it to do this. And I thought that was pretty great. I don't know of like an all-inclusive, like, here's the end-all, be-all chassis tuning guide. I don't know of anything like that off the top of my head.
Keevin, you have any tuning sources or guides that you use through the years? Have you found anything?
The old 2.0, 3.0 stuff used to come with a tuning guide, and I've got one in my setup book setup book. Got all the good stuff in it.
I was thinking maybe like, a couple sheets, but you really literally have a setup book.
Oh yeah, it's got some pictures of some old buggies on it.
Hey, look at this.
They're all orange.
Nice.
Oh, man. That thing.
3.0 tuning tips. It goes through engine, group, camber links, pistons, cause and effect. It's a little dated, but it's solid, and sometimes I get it out and look at it because I forget.
Yeah.
Hey,
it
Ryan
has all the good stuff.
Dunford, he just commented in the chat, and he said that we're bringing back the setup guide starting with the 8XT. Hey,
so yeah.
nice.
So these guys are working hard behind the scenes. You guys don't know all about their efforts, man. So we got new setup sheets, right? 8X Elite setup sheet. There's a new 10 skill setup sheet coming out as well. Yeah, so those are getting revamped, so they're more user friendly. Before you had to look at the picture, then go over and look at the data, and then go back and look at the picture, and then go back and look at the data. Now you just kind of look at the data, look at the picture, and you can get a ton of data, which makes it just more efficient, easier to read. And so they're working on that, and they're also working on bringing back the tuning guide that we used to do, because of how thick the manuals are now, how many pages it actually takes to have a manual, all the parts stuff on the back, the explosions, the options, all the stuff. You know, they're gosh, I have a manual around here. How many? Do you guys know how many pages they are now? Dude, they're like yeah, it's a lot of pages. So to save cost, we took some of that stuff out, but we realized we need to put it back in because it does help a lot of people.
91.
Yeah, so almost 100 pages for an RC manual, man, and you know all that stuff. Each page costs money to print. You know, obviously we have to have a manual at some sort of size, but we can't have a manual that's obviously 200 pages with all the info in it because most people don't even look at that stuff. So I think there's going to be a cross between adding it back into the manual, but then also having a web link so that you can go somewhere and just have the appendix of the setup guide on there, so you can kind of just read through online instead of actually have the physical manual and carry that with you everywhere. So we'll have that somewhere set up pretty soon once everything gets finalized and that truck gets released. So that would be good.
I'm looking forward to is when we all start measuring droop with the blocks. You know, that's gonna be nice. Like, you know, they've been doing that in on-road.
On-road, baby. Yeah, it's turning into on-road.
You know? But like, I always would have my shocks in a different hole, and then someone says I'm running 120 millimeter droop in the back, and I'm like, well, that's way off. But we'll get there. You know, it's because I'm in the outside hole and they're in the inside hole. You know, so that'll be nice. You know, once we all get on the same page with that.
Yeah.
You know, then you can run your shocks kind of where you want to and still be on the same droop as somebody else, you know?
Yeah, different shock locations, droops still the same. Yeah, it definitely that style of method, the on-road method where you measure droop that way is becoming more popular instead of having overall shock lengths and shock shaft lengths and stuff like that. It seems like they just measure the droop, and no matter whatever your shock length is, it's your shock length, and then you know, your droop is actually what ends up determining everything else. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So far, the way I've done it was just basically I use the droop screws. I screw them all the way up, and then I basically use my Thorpe wrench. There's obviously that sticker that shows you know, what size the tip is or whatever, the color strip, whatever that we want to call it. So I use that to actually start, and I'll mark that as a start, and I'll count turns, full turns, and then yeah, so I just count turns and half turns and quarter turns, kind of old school that way. So I kind of I screw the droop screws all the way up, and then I'll just match each one as I back it out and count it. You know, 4 or 5 full turns, and depends what looks best, right? You know, I eventually, when somebody will measure and say, yeah, I'm running, I measured the droop with the droop blocks, and this is what my stuff looks like, and then I'll eventually measure and make sure whatever my method is, 4.5 turns equal what you know that droop setting is, and get a little basis for that. So sweet. Interesting. So setup guide coming back. So what I use usually back in the day when I was trying to learn all this stuff, you know, I haven't learned everything yet, but what I used was the X-ray setup sheet guide, or the setup book. The X-ray has a setup book that they have for free. Some of the information is great. It's well written, well organized, but some of the information I remember reading and I was like, wait, this sounds backwards to me. So I don't know if it's still that way or not. That was definitely probably more than 5 years ago since I've looked at that setup guide, the X-ray one. But they did one. it works really well. It's got a ton of good info in there, and even if it's wrong, you should go out there and prove it to yourself. All right, so here we go. Another question. Here we go. I do see that. I do see to that. Not a lot of people know about it. We have a great track here. I just don't know we need to get the word out. Okay, so yeah, I mean, having a great track or in this time, it's obviously hard to have tracks up and running and making a lot of money since they're closed and they have a certain amount of, only so many people can fit into the building. So having your track, supporting your track in this time is very important. So if you have a local track that's kind of up and running, support them because they're gonna be there. You need a track around to go race at. So if you have a free weekend and you're thinking about it, go do it, man. Go RC it. Go have some fun. Support the local track. See how they're doing. Say hi to your friends, and see what's going on. All right, Rick Symes. Rick Symes, helping newbies out by giving them old sets of tires, etc., is a great way to get them to come back. So yeah, some people just toss it. Like I always see at the track, people just tossing their tires in the garbage. Like to somebody that they could probably still use that. A lot of people throw away their tires. If you have a set of tires that still look okay, but you're not going to run them for anything, and there's new people at the track, maybe hand them a couple sets of those. They might be able to use them. If not, they'll just toss them away in the garbage themselves, I guess, or they'll just politely say no, hopefully, right? All right, so next question. Yeah, so Tom makes a good point. It should be our responsibility as seasoned racers to ease the overwhelming shock of the racing scene to the new people. I think that's the hurdle when people come in and see this for the first time. That excitement is there, but then when they realize all the pieces what they need, they actually don't really know. And then trying to get that information, trying to get something going, it can be very overwhelming because there's a lot of different products out there, a lot of different speed control models, receiver models, radios, servos, batteries, more than ever. We have more companies involved in RC right now more than ever. So it's, helping these guys understand what these products do, what they are, where they're at. Just helping them out would be, I think, they would be very appreciative of that. All right, so we've got, if you guys want to put up your last couple questions. We're going to probably answer a few more and then close this out. All right, Hunter King. There you go. The third place four-wheel modified finisher at the Super Cup. This is a question for y'all. I've been trying to work on staying positive before, during, and after a race. I want to know what you guys might do to keep a cool head during a stressful race day. Good question right there, Hunter. If you're somebody that wants to make it in this, you got to figure this part out. So, Keevin, any words, tips, or advice?
There's nothing that to me, a good wrench session. I like to do that. It makes me optimistic. Finding a change. Like a lot of times I'll go to the track and I'm a little off the pace, and I tried my hardest. I ran some new stuff. I had new tires and all that, and I'm a little off the pace. Well, the best thing for me is just to kind of tear it down, take a look at it. Maybe you find a bent hinge pin. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just clean it up and make everything work better again. And then you make a small change and go back to the track next week and, give it 100%. You gotta keep pushing.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do.
Good old wrench session. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Kevin's also, if you don't know, he's a cyclist. So so am I. And then what I usually do to get away from my frustration, angers, in those moments is actually I ride my bike. So I'll go cycle, and I'll go for 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, or wherever I may end up. And what I'll do is pedal my frustrations out, pedal my anger, my concerns, my worries. So it physically allows me to release that energy, but then also gives me the time, because cycling, you're just kind of sitting on your bike. You're not really, I mean, you are paying attention, but not really. You can kind of do, and especially on the open roads by yourself, you can just do it like without thinking. And so I'm actually, during those moments, I'm actually thinking about ways I can fix things, ways I can improve, ways I can learn or make things better or solve problems. So I use that time when I'm pedaling to get that 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 anger or that frustration or that that negative energy. I use it that time to pedal and get that out. So I'm getting,
Help you to get away
yeah,
sometimes for a little bit.
yeah, you got to kind of release that and get away, and then let your mind kind of clear so that you can kind of come back and be able to solve those kind of problems. So I spend a lot of time riding bikes so that I can figure out my next step. If I can figure out, like what my issues are, or what some of my problems I'm having currently at the moment. Maybe it could be a job thing. Maybe it could be a relationship with somebody, like a team driver. Maybe it's not going so well. So I'll use that time to actually think clearly, to figure out how I can fix or how can I can improve. So that's my kind of method, is to be able to have a clear mind when racing. But most of the time, my advice to keep a level head after and before is just to realize that that's not your only race. You know what I mean? When you realize that, your next, there's always a race tomorrow. So like, if you're so heated and so disappointed or so frustrated, like, remember that this isn't the end of it. The next race is a whole new race. You get another chance, so you can kind of like just realize that there's another opportunity to make a bad moment good, or have some redemption or progression. So Ryan, what do you think?
It's funny because I watched Hunter throughout the weekend, so I have to tease him a little bit. And Hunter, I know your 2-wheel drive, it was hurting, bro. We had to work on that thing this weekend, and he didn't make it into the show, but good old Ryan did. I'm just teasing, man. I love you, and I know that you're working hard. You and your dad are out there. It's actually something that's interesting. I don't know where did I hear it. I know, and I might even be getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard somebody talking about it, where Cav, he kind of has this thing where if his car isn't working and he's getting frustrated, like, he might try a setup change according to what he thinks is wrong. If that still doesn't fix it, he has a process in place where he will then, it's like, okay, well, now it's time to rebuild my shocks. Now it's time to rebuild my diff. Do what?
And no, then it gets to a point where I need to go ask Mayfield.
Well, I liked it because a lot of times I think that there's some, I won't throw out names, but I heard a really funny story the other day about a pro driver, that some things are so placebo, but the fact that you did it like mechanically, your brain can switch over into a mode where it's at ease and it's at peace with itself. So, for example, the funny story is that there's a guy, he's driving his Hisskill nitro buggy, and he's going around the track, and it was a practice session, and he shouts down to a couple other pros that are down there, and he's like, "Hey, I need a quarter turn on my front shock collars, quarter turn." And they're like, "Quarter turn?"
Okay, there's only one of two guys that would request a quarter turn. I think I know who it is.
So but to make it even better, so the guy's like, "Oh, I got your quarter turn." So he grabs the car, he turns around, he cranks it like 4 times in the opposite direction and throws it back out there. And then he comes down off the stand. He's like, "Oh, yes, dialed, bro. It's so good. It's perfect. Thanks." So at the end, I think that having confidence in your car, knowing that everything is fresh, there are no bent hinge pins, there's no bent shock shafts because you've gone through it and those things. It has a fresh set of shock seals. Everything is, you came to this race with the best car possible, and then you work through these things in a process. So that for me is where I'll err on the side of getting my frustrations out in the vehicle, where it's like, if I'm that frustrated and the setup isn't working, I'll just rebuild my shocks because. So if you see me rebuilding my shocks, maybe don't ask me a question right now. No, but I have those things because I think that it's important to have confidence in your race program and to know when it's time to do those things. That's something that I do personally, and I liked when I heard that another driver kind of does the same thing.
So gotcha. I have a famous quote that I like to think about sometimes. It's not really totally related to R, but it translates kind of Deion Sanders. Prime time, Deion
Prime
Sanders.
Time, baby. Yeah, I love that guy.
So his saying is, look good, feel good. That relates to us. My car looks good. I feel good.
Heck yeah.
Feel good, play good. Feel good, race good.
Okay.
Play good, pay good. I mean, it all relates, you know?
Prime time, man. Yeah. What a legend, dude. What a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Deion Sanders, man. Back in the day. One of the him, Bo Jackson doing two sports, excelling at both the way they did, man, legendary, you know.
Oh yeah.
Legendary.
Too much talent.
Yeah, they would excel at any type of sport activity they ever got into. Track and field, boxing, anything, man. They just have that ability, that physical prowess, man. All right, so Jose confirms that the bladder, yes, it is reinforced to give it more support. I think that's the bladder he's talking about, the new elite bladders that come in the kit. They have more webbing in it, and it's thicker, so that the shock will rebound and be more of a bladder, I guess. So a lot more.
West Coast.
What's that?
I said, good job, West Coast.
Yeah, doing your thing. West Coast doing the thing. There we go. All right. So City Sushi says Chandler Arizona track has a few guys that are really approachable and happy to help. So that's going to be the end difference maker that we don't even have to work on. We just have to be aware of. You know, I think all of us deep down inside really want to help and be a part of somebody's RC start and adventure. You know, I know I am. I know everybody on the team is willing to help. So I think we're all there. We're all, you know, willing to. We just have to actually like reach out and do it and realize it, you know. All right. So then here's a good question. Question of the day. Yoshimitsu Funabashi. Should I switch to TLR? I think that's yeah. I don't think you can go wrong. I think TLR. Since I've moved over to TLR, the momentum has been awesome. The effort has been just fantastic from top to bottom from everybody that I've been associated and working with. It's been a pleasure. The transition, like I said, me getting, you know, announced during this COVID time and me learning the job through this COVID time, you know, it's a different challenge, but you know, everybody stepped up on their side and helped out as much as they could. You know, sometimes I feel bad for actually asking for some of their times because I know how busy they are, and I know some of my questions are going to be really stupid because I don't really know much right now. And you know, they've been super helpful. So TLR, tons of support, Yoshimitsu, and if you need somebody to speak Japanese, I can help you out, man. You can text me, and then we can speak Japanese. I can hook it up. Itsudemo ii desu yo. All right, so Peyton Puckett, I'll be there. I think that's the race at this weekend for you, Keevin. Yeah. All right.
That's a teamy there.
Tom Bolger knows what's up. Most important question here: Longhorn or Outback? But I already know you guys' answers. You guys are
Longhorn.
Yeah, Texas. I'm surprised you're not Texas Roadhouse just because it has Texas in the name, man.
Longhorn.
100%. I don't even know why that's even a debate. Like, how? All right, so there we go, Tom Boger. I hope 10 skill Nats goes down. It would be the first one I could actually go to. I'm hoping it happens too. Like I said, don't take my word for it just yet. Let Roar announce it. That's the update from what I've heard, but you know, things could change quickly in a few days, you know, so don't be passing that out just yet, and let Roar do their thing. I'm sure they'll announce it and everybody will have a ton of questions and a lot of complaints, just like they always do about Roar. Silly question. That's a silly question. What? Okay, don't know. All right, so we got Baden McDonald. Have the team been testing the LCD drive shafts out of the 22X4? What did you notice? Also, have you played with the 6, 9, 12 degree front hubs? Cheers. Have you guys played around with the? Let's talk with the LCD drive shafts. I believe he's talking about the double jointed front drive shafts for the 22X4.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what that is, it's basically two joints to the front of the axle portion of the front CVA. So each joint doesn't bend like this, and you get that a lot of mechanical bind. You can hear it on the track when you turn your car full steering and then give it a little bit of throttle. You can hear it start grinding. So what that is a mechanical bind, and usually ends up actually giving you a little bit more front grip in terms of corner grip. When you run a double jointed front drive shaft, usually it frees it up, and the car ends up being a little bit more pushy, but it can carry corner speed a lot better because that joint is having a lot less friction going on. So there's times you use it. I would say carpet would be the optimum time to use a double jointed front drive shaft, double jointed front CVA. But most of the time, I think on dirt, if you're running dirt, the standard CVA will be just fine. And then have you guys played with the 6, 9, or 12 degree front hubs? I believe the front hubs. Yeah, the stock front hubs are 9 degree. I just wanted to double check, not give the wrong info out. But so it's 9 degrees. We have the option of getting aluminum front hubs that are set in 6 degree and set in 12 degree. Have you guys played around with that at all? I don't think a lot of guys have actually played around with the different caster blocks angles. Standards is pretty good. I think it's in the middle. So numbers are arbitrary. So just because you start in the middle doesn't mean that's the correct starting point. But 9's a good number. I think it gives you a good balance between the different kind of steering, on power steering, off power steering. The ease of drivability. When you start to run 6, a lot less caster, the car gets very darty and hard to drive. When you run 12 degree caster blocks, it's a little bit more forgiving and easy into the corners. Generally just kind of more tire angle scrub, and versus being like this and turning like this, you get a lot of steering. Whereas when the tire's like this and it turns, it's pivoting on a different plane. So and that all kind of translate in how much rubber is actually contacting the surface. I haven't played with it myself. Honestly, I need to run the car, and like I said, this weekend might be it. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think there's a ton of other adjustments where you can leave 9 degrees on and play with all the other adjustments, and you can probably make a lot of magical setups happen. You can start with 6 and then work the other way around. Then you can start with 12 and whatnot. So there's a way that you can kind of change your setups to kind of get best of both worlds if you know what you're doing. But I think if you're kind of new to RC racing, I think sticking with 9, keeping that simple, and changing ball studs and shock packages and mainly tires and getting your tires right, that will make the biggest difference in the world. Okay, so let's move on. All right.
Yeah, sadly, I haven't got to run my 22X4 yet.
Yeah, I saw you build it the other day. Like I remember seeing some pictures, right?
Well, my wiring's pretty clean, Thomas. We may have to have a clean wiring shootout.
All right, I'm down. My car's ready to go. I mean, I'm I could do that right now. I could grab this thing.
I think that if both of you guys had driven this car and you saw this question, you'd be like, there is no way on planet Earth you would need the LCDs or to go to a 6 degree caster block if you're running on dirt, because the car has so much steering. You're just like, dude, this thing's a dream, because it's just like you just a little bit of detune if you need it to be a little bit easier, and you're good to go. Like it's just so good.
Yeah, the amazing thing that the feedback that I've gotten from the 22X4 has been phenomenal. Like, I haven't heard, performance-wise, I haven't heard anybody complain about how the car drives. There's some issues. There's some metal issues that we had, obviously. Pins breaking in the drive shaft in the center. I think that's just basically the reminisce of the whole process of when we were trying to get the metals fixed, the hardness. Some of the hardness we found out to be too stiff. So what was happening was the pins would just basically break instead of actually bend, be a little bit more forgiving. So softer metal goes in and less pins breaking. So I think over time, that the whole batch will be, I think that problem will go away eventually, just as we do the running changes and the small updates that require that we would like to have done, just to make sure that those parts aren't having any kind of issues. But other than that, it's been fantastic. The feedback has been so phenomenal with that car. Everybody that tells me it has so much corner speed and it's so easy to drive. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast this weekend, and it's going to be a good play day, man. I haven't had one of those in a long time.
For anyone that's watching, and either now or later, and you're thinking like, well, what if I need to change how much steering feel it has? The initial, really easy change, because the kit comes with adjustable pill inserts for the blocks, the A, B, C, and D blocks. Something that I've suggested, and I do it myself personally, is I don't know off the top of my head what the kit pills are for the front, but I run mine one up in the middle and one down on the B, and that gives the car a really nice neutral kind of corner entry, and it's really nice. And I've heard the same from other people who have tried it. So really easy change because it comes in the kit, and then you can just take it from there.
Yeah, so adjusting that pills, the way Ryan's talking, doing one up in the front, the suspension mount, and then doing one down. Is it one down? Did you say one down, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
So one down on the back. Basically, what you're doing is adding kick up to the front end of the car, and that allows a lot more weight transfer. So off power, the car will naturally want to transfer more weight to the front, so it basically engages the front end a little bit faster. So when you want to have less weight transfer, like the car, when you brake and the car keeps doing this a lot, you can take some out, and then that way it will keep the weight from transferring so much to the front, and then causing the car to maybe be inconsistent. It really depends on your front diff, your tires, and a lot of other factors. But the general reason why they're changing the pills, so that the front is up and the one's down, is so that the hinge pin angle, basically your kick up, will be increased. And when you run kick up with an increased kick up, basically makes it a little bit easier to drive. Usually, sometimes it's backwards, man. Sometimes you'll get in a situation where what you've tested many a times, it actually is producing the reverse effect. It only happens very rarely, and it really depends on the track and tires and all those type of things. But I've had it where I've tried something and it was the reverse effect, and I'm like, wow, how is this? Wait a second, this is no way. And he's like, yeah, I don't know that. And somebody confirms the same thing, and I'm like, well, I'm not crazy, it's just on this track with these tires, with this situation, with the rest of the setup, it's not acting its typical behavior. All right, there we go. Funny enough, I found the 22X4 easier to build. Interesting, as we got as the biggest grip, I don't know, YouTube name, built a 22 5.0 Elite with my son, and we are building the 22X4 tomorrow. Can't wait. Awesome. Congratulations on the new rides. Please tell us how it is. I hope it goes well for you. I'm sure you'll be happy with both cars. They're just fantastic. TLR's put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and making these cars better each time around. The 5.0 Elite is a phenomenal two-wheel. The 22X4, as you guys have already known and seen, it's a phenomenal four-wheel. All right, so let's take a last question here. Trying to end this one with a fun question or something that's kind of amazing. But So Christopher Burcham, we had a roar race here 2 weeks ago. A roar race, interesting. Regional race, maybe? 2 weeks ago, I seen the team using headsets. Do you recommend them? And if so, what should I get? Keevin, you could probably help them out with this question about headsets and stuff. Well, it seems to be a popular thing these days in 8-skill racing.
They're really nice. You know, sometimes if you're at a track that the driver stands low and you can talk to your mechanic, that's maybe not quite as important. But, you know, if you're at that track where, you know, it's 20 feet up there, or, you know, it really helps a lot for that. Plus, like, if your mechanic's setting your car on the track for the main and you need an adjustment or something, it's really nice to have. It's just kind of, you know, a big change in the last 3 or 4 years, because now on the driver's stand, everybody's talking and no one's talking to each other, you know.
It is one of the weirdest things that I had to get used to when I started standing up on the driver's stand and people were standing next to me with these headsets on. They're talking to their buddy, you know. So then I gotta, while I'm trying to practice or race or whatever it may be, I gotta listen to this guy's conversation all of a sudden now. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, are we talking on the driver's stand like we're just having a conversation with our friends? Is this what we do now? It's like, what's this guy doing? So I just say, you know, say, hey, we're racing. You know, I'll make a comment just because I don't want to hear somebody's conversation when I'm trying to give 100% focus onto what I'm doing. You know, I'm like, what are you doing? Just jibber jabbering about what you're gonna eat for lunch right now? It's like, oh god.
But, you know, yeah, everyone's doing it. You know.
Yeah. Is there a certain brand that's better than the others, you think? Was it RC Communications is the popular one?
I've got the same one everybody else has, and it works awesome. You know, and I can't remember what brand it is, but it's the same one everybody else has. But, you know, like at home, our driver stand's only like 8 feet tall, and I don't use it at home, but somebody, like, they'll just tap my foot, you know, or when it's time to come in for a pit, something like that. It's just a little simpler. You know, like when you're doing a local race and you've got so many things to check, you got to charge your transmitter, your receiver pack, whatever, and all of a sudden you've got 2 headsets to charge because they kind of run dead fast, you know.
Fast.
One more thing, you know.
Does it last like how long do they last? Like obviously over an hour, because main sometimes go an hour.
I think they'll go dead in about 2 to 3 hours, you know. And so if you use it in a couple of heat races in practice, you better charge it before the main, you know. And plus, a lot of people leave them on, you know, by mistake. So when I'm not using mine, I take the batteries out because they're kind of weird to turn off, you know.
Yeah.
But they're really nice, you know. They work good, you know. You can you can hear really well. They can hear you really well. It's clear. So they're pretty impressive, you know.
Yeah, I think they're fantastic. It's funny to me, like Mayfield, and I think there's one other guy that refuses to use them. One of the top guys. Yeah, everybody's jumped on the bandwagon. Mayfield still quarter turn down on the top. Yeah, he's still doing his hand signals to his guy. Yeah. You know, they got the and then. Or whatever that you choose your hand signals to be between you and your pit guy, but it's pretty funny that it's always like a top, you know, and then a turn or some sort of combination of signals. But so they're still resorting to archaic hand gestures. Everybody else moved on to the RC communication headsets and stuff. They are fantastic, but the only problem, the reason why Mayfield doesn't use the headsets is because he wants to hear his car. You know, he wants to be able to listen to it on the back straightaway, or when he hits a jump. He's adjusting his stuff by the sound of his motor as well. You know, how much he pulls the trigger, what it's doing on the back jump, so that when it comes back around the next lap, he remembers, or he knows by how much he pulled that trigger, by the sound of the engine, or you know, like those certain things. He's paying attention to the sound of the motor. So when you wear the headsets, and I know Tebow had an issue with this for a long time at the beginning too, because I remember at DNC 2 years ago when he started using the headsets, he was, you know, he ended up ripping the thing off and then yelling down to Zach what he needed to have done because they had maybe an issue with their headset or something, but he wasn't very comfortable. I remember him coming off the driver's stand, man, I can't hear my car. It's just so weird.
Sometimes you can hear it better, actually. Like if your car's down there with your mechanic and he's, fueling it, you can actually better right there. And I like that, but I understand when it's out on the track, it is different, but at times it is that you can hear your car a little better in places. It's just in different places. It changes,
Gotcha. All right. I'm going to end today's conversation with this one here. Maddox Goran, how can you get sponsored? It seems really hard and really far off for me. Any advice on getting sponsored? And let's just talk about what it takes to be a sponsored driver, and then I'll go into the process and close off the chat with how to get sponsored by TLR. And then any recommendations on when you're ready to get sponsored, or what you need to have ready, if you want to get looked at, what's the process?
Keevin, go ahead, man.
To me, I look for guys that are dedicated. They maybe they don't get on the team the first time they send a resume in, but maybe you see their resume next season and they're still trying, they're still doing their thing, they're still showing up. I like guys that already use our cars. I think that's pretty neat that they're dedicated to our brand already. Just don't give up just because it doesn't happen, the first time you send in an application or something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? What is your standard on, now that you're in a position to maybe have an effect on who joins the team? What are you looking for? How do you judge somebody's that they're ready to join the TLR team, or this, or they need more time?
So probably the first thing that I look at isn't necessarily driver talent, because there's only going to be about, a dozen guys that have the speed of a world champion at any given time. That's a very rare, special ability. I think that somebody that can be a local hot shot and just, win some local races and that sort of thing is probably a much more manageable, achievable goal. So with that in mind, I would say that when I look at a guy that takes his car pretty seriously and he comes to the track and it looks like he did maybe a little bit of a rebuild to it before he got here this weekend. It's relatively clean. It has, from what you can tell, like a current setup in the car. And you can just see some, all in all, an effort being put into their race program. So that's like one side of it. And then the other side would be, do people generally enjoy this person at the track? Do they have a good presence at the track? Are they having fun? Are they engaging with others? Because what these people are going to be is an ambassador for the brand that they hope to someday be sponsored by. So if you are being helpful around the track and just have a good attitude, I'm not saying it's perfect all the time, but generally speaking, it's good. That would be what I think a lot of people are going to be looking for. If you come off the driver's stand and you're cussing up a storm and you're just talking badly about everyone behind their back all the time, and you're just making up 1,000 excuses as to why you perform the way that you did, and that's kind of your mode of operation, that's going to be a tougher sell, because what a lot of people will do is they might ask people at your local track before they sponsor you, hey, so-and-so, I heard that this guy, we might be looking to sponsor him. What's your opinion on him? And odds are they're probably going to say it exactly how they feel and what they think. So that's kind of the way that I know that process can work sometimes. So work hard on your stuff, have a good attitude, and stay dedicated, and hopefully good things will happen for you.
Yeah, so you guys don't know this, but I'll let you in on a little secret. I talk to a lot of people. I call a lot of people. So when if you're applying, I'm going to talk to somebody that's on your list or somebody in your area or the track itself, the track owner, because I want to know what they think about you and how you are as a representative. So the last person the current person I'm looking at, I've already called 3 people. You know, I still have to call more. So like I want to be involved to that level because to me, it matters who joins this team. I'm not in, if I do a bad job because we didn't make a certain, number because I didn't put a lot of people on the team and we didn't have a lot of sales that way, but that's fine. I'll get fired for that and I move on. My style didn't work, right? But I believe building a team that's based on people that really want to do this, motivated, that love this, instead of guys that barely race, barely represent, but just want a discount so they can tell their buddies that they're a team driver. I'm not really too interested in those dudes, but I'm interested in people that actually want to be a part of this and be a part of something that's bigger. This team right now, with me on board, 7 RTMs, the regional team manager system, I think we are more closely connected than any other team out there currently. So I think there's something that's going on here at TLR that's very special. And if you want to be a part of this, the easiest way to be a part of the TLR family now is you can send in the resume. So I'll break it down to you guys. The first way, and probably the least effective way, is to send the resume straight to TLR Race Team at horizonhobby.com. You can send a resume that way, but it's going to probably sit there for a little bit until I get around to it. It's just part of that process, because what I'm looking for is more towards a referral. So the second way to get on the TLR team is get a referral by another racer. So if you have a buddy or a racer that has been around you, that's already on the team, and he refers you to me, then that moves along a lot faster, because what that does is cut out the fact that I have to go through and do all the research. If this person, how long they've been racing, if their resume is actually true, so if they get referred, I can just count on that team driver's referral as the person, so I don't have to actually do a lot of background research and looking into their race history. And then the fastest way, and my recommended way to join the TLR team is actually to talk to one of the regional team managers. So each one of these guys, Jose Alvarado, Luke Eunice, Ryan Harris, Keevin Sharp, Corey Richardson, Jeffrey Kaufman, Zeke Bollinger. If you look at these guys' web Facebook site or Facebook, they'll have a graphic on their header that shows what state they're responsible for. So if you want to join TLR team, the easiest way is to contact with them, get to know them, and be at a race where they might be at. Make yourself known, and then if you do, they can start checking and monitoring you and your performance. So then if you get a referral from an RTM, you're basically good as gold, because we're just gonna figure out what percentage you are, or what value add to the team, where to start you. And then that if we have that conversation, it's basically a couple calls for me to get to know you a little bit better, and then the process happens that way. So first way, email me your resume. Second way, get a referral by a current TLR team driver. And the best way, obviously, is just to get a referral by the regional team manager, because those are people I trust. That's their job is to be actively involved in paying attention to the drivers in their region. So if you want to get it dialed in, that's the way to do it. And I'd be more than happy to answer any more questions. But for tonight, this is all the time that we have. We've almost made it 3 hours, which is probably 2 hours and 42 minutes in, longer than I expected. But it's always good to have a conversation and get to know Ryan and Keevin a little bit better, just judging from their answers and how they're involved. These are the right guys in their area. And I can't wait to see what all of us will be building together in the future. So you guys have any last words, final goodbyes?
Get out there, race, have fun.
Scott, Time to pack up for the weekend.
Yeah, it's Thursday. What I'm going to be doing right now is actually updating my firmware on my speed controls.
Hey, there you go.
Ron sure told me that there's new firmware out for the G2 Speedos, so I'm going to get that updated right now after I shut this down, and then be able to get my stuff ready, maybe glue up another set of tires so I can break in, and then go run some laps on Sunday with the new 4-wheel. So I'm excited. I'll keep everybody posted. I'll be posting stuff on social media, just seeing how it goes. And I just got to get to the track and just turn this thing on and pull the trigger, man. I'm so ready. Over 2 months just waiting around with this thing built. Like I have to look at this thing every day, and I don't get to drive it. So it's almost time. So everybody, thanks for joining. Thanks Ryan and Keevin for making the time. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. It's always fun to be interactive. We had close to 100 at some point. Some good numbers for a show that's from something out of nothing. We just, like you said, the YouTube thing, right? The phenomenon. You can make anything as long as you have some sort of camera or some video device. And here we are making something out of nothing, sharing the wealth and the love of RCs together. So thank you guys for tuning in. Ryan, always a pleasure, my man. And keep up the good work. Kevin, good luck this weekend. I'll be seeing you and hearing from you shortly. And, rock and roll.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you guys.